Is that what you're on about?
Yeah.
Is that a harmonica?
What would you call it? But there's a different name for the harmonica. What would you call it? It's the French
Doesn't
something?
sound like a harmonica to me.
That is a harmonica.
Doesn't sound like one.
No, Caroline. He needs his ears tested.
Seriously, it doesn't sound like a harmonica.
Well, it's definitely not a saxophone.
Harmonicas are really annoying, and then you...
No, that's played right.
No, but you hear it sucking and blowing.
Yeah, what you do is you get two different notes. You must have played.
Harmonica.
You must have did a bit of blowing in the past, did you? So you know what I mean?
Harmonica. I've never used a harmonica in my life.
Have you not? But there's a different name for the harmonica as well.
Is there? Mouth organ.
Mouth organ.
Yeah, no,
harmonica.
never did that.
Is this the mouth organ and the harmonica? They're two different ones.
I always found them very unhygienic. Putting your spit in and sucking it back out again.
Very true. I never thought in that.
You know what I mean? It's like,
I know. How do you clean it out then?
you just don't.
No.
You sucked it all clean.
Imagine picking it up a month afterwards. I'll get away.
Yeah, in there as well. There used to be one around the house.
Imagine you're in the pub, right? And I said, throw it over there and I'll give you a tune. No, don't go there.
I don't even like sitting on a warm seat.
Yeah, mine.
Yeah, I know. I actually genuinely...
You were scolding me yesterday. Well, if you were sitting on... That's like a so-called leather chair.
I saw a video on Facebook yesterday, one of these things about the staff and all that kind of crack.
Caroline Orsi's super efficient, yeah.
No, but you know I'm the most organised person here.
No, you're not.
Yeah, yeah.
No, you're organised.
I come in here, everything has to be perfect.
Yeah.
I am annoyingly...
Yeah. But
organised.
Who has this studio set up for you so it's perfect?
See, you don't appreciate me. No one appreciates me.
No, you don't appreciate what I do until I go away on holidays.
Well, I took my holidays off at the same time.
Oh, we take us outside, will we?
I'm going to bust you.
All right, okay, 4 o'clock.
All right, see you in a bit. It is the 9 till noon show. Let's get a news update, though, first, and say good morning, Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. Today marks 25 years since the Omagh bomb. At 10 minutes past 3 on Saturday, August the 15th, 1998, a car bomb detonated in the town centre, killing 29 people and unborn twins. A short private service will take place at Omagh Library this afternoon, while relatives will then lay flowers at the glass memorial that stands on the site of the bomb on Market Street. Meanwhile, a mass was held in St Mary's Oratory last night, during which the 3 Buncrana schoolboys, 8-year-old Oren Doherty and 12-year-old Sean McLaughlin and James Barker, and 2 Spanish visitors staying in Donegal killed in the explosion were remembered. The parish priest of Buncrana, Father John Walsh, says the bomb was an attack on human dignity and a sign that those behind it hold human life in contempt.
A bomb in Omagh, for example, is a horrible intrusion on normality. It seems to be proclaiming with a sort of global contempt that in the final analysis, individuals are expendable and human beings don't matter at all.
Father John Joe Duffy says while a tsunami hit Creaslaw on October the 7th last year, the community was lifted by a tidal wave of support. He was speaking as he led the National Novena at Knock Basilica last evening. An explosion at a shop in the village last year claimed the lives of 10 people, with Father Duffy describing the initial scene as one of tremendous shock, horror and disbelief. He says it was a day that will never be forgotten.
Creaslaw is a small village that few heard of. However, that was changed through this cruel and unfair tragedy that befell us. But we are surviving and we are gaining strength and becoming stronger. Our hearts will never forget those who are taking from us.
Former Taoiseach Bertie Ahern has described developments in relation to a leaked document from the PSNI as upsetting. An investigation is underway after a redacted version of the document containing the names of PSNI officers and staff was placed on a wall in West Belfast overnight on Monday. The sensitive information about all serving officers was posted online in error last week. Bertie Ahern says it's a difficult situation to witness.
What's happened, why it's happened, I just don't know. I don't get it, how 10,000 people were all in one system, particularly high intelligence people. But anyway, I'm sure that'll all come out in the wash. But it is very upsetting.
Weather now today will be a bright day with sunny spells and scattered showers. Highest temperatures of 17 or 18 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
Are you suffering from dodgy internet connection? Symptoms include endless loading, embarrassing freeze face. Luckily, there's a cure. free home broadband in Ireland's fastest and most consistent 5G network. Get it free for the first 3 months and for only €39 per month after that. Plus, no setup costs. You don't want to miss this. Visit in store or at 3.ie. 24-month minimum term. Subject to location and availability. Speeds may vary. Based on analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence data Q3 to Q4 2022.
The county's #1 talk show. The 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. And now it's time for the talk of the Northwest. The 9 to noon show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello and a very good morning to you. Just 4 minutes past 9 on this Tuesday morning, the 15th of August 2023. You're very welcome along to another edition of the 9 till noon show. I do hope you're very well indeed. Plenty coming up over the next 3 hours. Coming up after 10 o'clock, of course, Community Garda information, where we'll bring you the latest appeals and information from An Garda Síochána, that and so much more besides. So don't go anywhere. Your calls and comments welcome into us right now. WhatsApps and texts. If there's an issue you wish to raise, a topic you want to discuss, some information you wish to pass on, or indeed if you want to play a request for someone special in your life, 086 60 25,000, the WhatsApp and text number. You can also obviously text and WhatsApp us from outside the Republic, 0035386 60 25,000. If you're listening in Derry, Tyrone, Lanzarote, the Cayman Islands, we've got people all over the place. If you want to give us a call, of course, 07491 25,000. Same again, 00353 7491 25,000. Any emails from anywhere, also comments at highlandradio.com. Right, the Donegal Democrat this morning, a man charged with murdering another man in southwest Donegal has been remanded in custody with a book of evidence expected to be served next month. Alan Vile appeared at Letterkenny District Court on Thursday afternoon via video link from Castlereagh Prison. The 38-year-old has been charged with the murder of Robert Wilkin, whose body was found floating in waters off Slieve League on July 3rd. Vile's solicitor, Mr. Patsy Gallagher, said his client consented to the matter being adjourned to September the 4th. On to the nationals. We'll start with the Mail this morning. Number of young adults still living at home almost doubled in the past decade. Do you have your adults? I was going to say your young ones, but it could be anyone now at this stage now. Do you have them back home? Do you have them living at home? Is it good? Is it working for you? Are you glad? Or the stage of your life where you would hope that they're out on their own and you have a little bit more privacy or independence or whatever you might call it? Well, more and more adults are living at home now. The scale of Ireland's housing crisis is laid bare by new figures showing the number of young adults still living with their parents has almost doubled in the past decade, and young men are less likely to leave the family home compared to their female counterparts, according to new data from Eurostar. The latest figures show that 68% of Irish adults aged between 25 and 29 were still living at home last year. Now, is it truly because they can't get a property? Is it because they can't find somewhere to rent? Or are they enjoying home cooking? What's your experience? Maybe it's something that you're indifferent to. Maybe, as I say, it's something that you're really pleased about, or maybe it's something that you're quietly upset about. Feel free to share your views confidentially with us to 086 60 25,000. Well, 68% of Irish adults, as I mentioned, aged between 25 and 29 were still living at home. That compares to an EU average of 42%, so it's 50% higher, not insignificant. For women in this age group, 61% have yet to move out, while almost three-quarters, 74% of men, have yet to fly the nest. However, a decade ago, just 36% of those aged 25 to 29 were still living with their parents. So, as I say, is that something that's working for you or something that you would like to see change? Let us know. Share your views with us. The front of the Irish Times this morning. You just heard some commentary on this during the news bulletin. Police in Northern Ireland are confident the information released in last week's major data breach is in the hands of dissident Republicans. Chief Constable Simon Byrne said yesterday it was now a planning assumption that they will use this list to generate fear and uncertainty as well as intimidate or target officers and staff, he added. Now, all of these aren't based in Northern Ireland. I'm sure there are a number based in Donegal that aren't too happy with this information being released and are uncertain now about their security. The Police Service of Northern Ireland chief was speaking after data appearing to be from the leak was posted on a wall opposite the Sinn Féin office on the Falls Road in West Belfast. Sinn Féin MLA and Policing Board spokesperson Jerry Kelly said it compromised approximately 3 to 4 A4 pages of the leaked document, but with the names of officers removed. On to the Irish Daily Mail now. Big crisis in teaching in this country. And, you know, there was perhaps a summer to actively go out and go to these foreign destinations where so many of our young teachers are teaching now and say, look, come home, we've got some full-time jobs for you here, and maybe sweeten the package for them a little. I'm not sure if that happened or not, but as it stands now, we've got 1,200 teaching jobs vacant. This is unbelievable, really, when you think of it. School principals across the country are scrambling to fill almost, as I mentioned, 1,200 vacant teaching jobs just weeks before the new term begins. The recruitment crisis is particularly acute in Dublin, where the high cost of housing and a shortage of supplies forcing teachers to leave the capital. New figures show there are now 1,170 vacancies at primary and second level nationwide, with almost half of the unstaffed teaching positions, 528 in Dublin. Well, they're not fleeing Dublin to find the jobs in the rural communities, or they would be filled, so they're going somewhere else. Principals say they are down to the wire as they frantically compete to try to fill posts. Karen Jordan of St Catherine's National School in Dublin City said the teacher shortage is very real and is the worst I've seen it in my 7 years as principal. I read these stories and then you chat to people out or they message you who are teachers struggling to get some permanency or to get positions, and I always struggle to square that circle. Maybe if you're out there and that's relevant to you, you might be able to share some information with us and give us an understanding, or maybe that information is outdated now at this stage and there are simply more posts than there are teachers. We don't know the extent of vacancies in Donegal, however. Let us see, what should we go to next? The Irish Daily Star, and former Minister Ivan Yates has weighed into the RTE controversy. He says he believes RTE will run out of cash by December and will be in need of a state bailout. And the opinionated ex-minister, as is described, said the broadcaster was heading for a financial crisis because it has borrowed 95 million of its 100 million limit and fears for the 1,800 staff working there. The former Tonight Show host also weighed in on Ryan Tubridy's potential return to the station, saying he needs RTE more than RTE needs him, admitting anyone can talk poo for an hour. And I've said that on this programme before. That is a slot that you could put a talking clock in and you would record 200,000-300,000 listeners. It's just the way it is. So I would agree with him. I don't often, but I would agree with him that Ryan Tubridy definitely needs RTE more than it needs him. And also, as I said in the show yesterday, nothing against Mr. Tubridy. He's probably a decent family man. I'm sure he is, actually. If they are looking to get rid of a toxic culture, he has become that poster boy for it. For right or wrong, it's just he's part of this whole controversy, and I just don't see a way he eases back into that slot without that toxicity following him in there. Not to mention, it's still not clear whether or not the staff that may feel unfairly treated would be very willing to work with him. Opening up about the RTE pay scandal, Ivan said, I think the public are missing the point here. With each passing week, the whole debate about Ryan Tubridy is deck chairs on the Titanic. It is now facing a cash shortfall of 50 million. I believe RTE is now technically insolvent. They were borrowing. They have borrowings of 95 million. But there is a playing field out there that we're in. News Talk are in, Today FM are in. They don't get any licence fees money and continuing to provide a service. I don't think that comment is going to make people feel sorry for RTE and want to pay their TV licence if they have already decided that they don't want to. The Irish Sun today, it is time to manage the banks after they failed to pass on interest rate hikes to savers, the chair of the Oireachtas Finance Committee has said. Fianna Fáil TD John McGuinness suggested bank levies should be increased as a threat to the banks for not passing on hikes to savers fast enough. He also urged the government to threaten the institutions with sanctions if they don't comply. What I don't understand is, and maybe it's not in the gift of the government, but why is no one calling for the vulture funds to be sanctioned and hit with heavy levies to try and offer better value or lower interest rates to Irish mortgage holders who are stuck with them? And I mean particularly those who have defective concrete homes. Are the vulture funds beyond the scope of levies? And if they aren't beyond the scope of levies, why isn't the likes of the chair of the Oireachtas Finance Committee not imploring the government to levy them to the point whereby they stop gouging people who are already going through an absolute nightmare. Now, the problem the banks will say is if they, and this is separate to the vulture funds, the problem the banks will say is that they will argue that, well, if we want to maintain our profits at some level, so if we increase interest on savings, we're going to have to start rolling out interest rate hikes on mortgages. They have already, but not to the level they possibly could. So I hope in their actions that they don't hit those who are struggling to pay their mortgage in an attempt to get more interest rates for themselves on their savings. Because let's face it, is there anyone in the Dáil that doesn't have significant savings that would benefit from an interest rate hike? I would suggest not. I would say most of them must have, or else they're not very good with their money. We would just want to make sure that in their efforts to insist the banks do that they don't then at the same time give the banks the free rein to increase further mortgage interest rates, which will hit those that don't have the luxury of €100,000 plus salary. So I just do hope they do get it right. The Irish Daily Mirror, following on from a story we read out yesterday, they have the comments of a leading priest. He said the church needs to urgently look at accepting female or married priests as existing clergy are dying on their feet. Because this out of Galway yesterday, we heard that, and we've heard it from this county and this region as well, there is a reduction. The number of priests is falling, and inevitably this is going to lead to issues in terms of funerals, christenings, all that type of stuff. And we have one priest here, Father Paddy Byrne, saying that the Catholic Church needs to accept female or married priests. Is that something you would be in favour of? Have you had an issue with it? Now, of course, if you don't really care, you're not a practicing Catholic or you're not a Catholic and you don't go to church, it probably doesn't matter as much. But if you are a regular churchgoer and you can see yourself things are changing, is it time the church changed and said, OK, married priests and females should be able to do the job? What do you think? 086 60 25,000 WhatsApps and texts to that number, or give us a call on 074 91 25,000. Well, Father Paddy Byrne added, this is nothing new or radical. Pope Francis is asking us to embrace the signs of the times. The Port Leash-based cleric said the church must take accountability for the vocation crisis. He added, we have a responsibility to perhaps put our hands up as the church and say, well, actually, unfortunately, we got to this point by failing to listen to the people on the ground. I think, though, there is there is a significant, I don't know how strong it is or not, group of people that says the church needs to be consolidated. You know, that if people aren't going, or maybe it needs to be compacted, stick to its laurels, not bow or change or swerve to try and suit modern life, that it sticks to its guns, and if it becomes smaller, so be it, but it retains its core principles, and if that means less priests, that means less priests. That's one view. Father Paddy there clearly obviously doesn't share that view, but what is your view? That's the question I have for you. 086 60 25,000 or call us on 074 91 25,000.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Do you suffer from high cholesterol, menopause symptoms, digestive issues, anxiety, aches and pains, or a lack of energy? The highly trained team at The Natural Way Letterkenny can provide advice on natural remedies for a number of individual health issues. The Natural Way also has its own brand of herbal treatments to help fight fatigue, relieve digestive discomfort, maintain a healthy immune system, and alleviate common menopause symptoms. The Natural Way at Letterkenny Shopping Centre, your one-stop health shop.
Colm here from Sweeney's Home Value Builders Providers, Lettermack Award and Derrybeg. Are you starting a new build or planning a renovation anytime soon? Why not give us a call today for quotation for all your building needs? Whether it's steel or insulation, timber or slates, we have it all at Sweeney's Builders Providers, Lettermack Award and Derrybeg. Call 074 95 44 114. And now with delivery all across Donegal, at Sweeney's Builders Providers, we have it all.
Have I got news for you? The Harvey's Point Cabaret is back. Every Wednesday in September and October, Eamon has gathered a galaxy of stars to captivate and entertain. A scrumptious dinner, fabulous entertainment, or a 2-night accommodation package. Harvey's Point Cabaret 074 972 2208 for an immediate reservation or harveyspoint.com.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
The time is 19 minutes past 9. You're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio. Now, Dara Fleming is a digital communications and content lead with A Lust for Life and a mental health blogger. And he joins us, he will be joining us, shortly. I beg your pardon. We'll come back to Dara in a moment, but I'll get to some of your comments before we do from yesterday, because the show was very busy yesterday and I didn't get to all of them. A caller says there are people out there that could buy the lady's wheelchair that you had on yesterday. So let's see who is still a good person in this country and do the right thing. I wish to God I had the money and would not even give it a second thought by giving this person her dream. Ree Gardy with tattoos. This listener says, I'm sure back in the days before the David Beckham tattoo phenomenon, had he stopped someone with a tattoo, I'm sure he would have asked more questions from that person, because image back then told stories in the mind. But we're not back then. Things are different now. Hi, Greg. Unfortunately, regardless of the frequency of tattoos in the modern era, present confrontational training would dictate that they can be antagonising regardless. I know some fine individuals with tattoos, but it is the individual customer person whom they deal with. P.S. Always remember a man in his 60s with wrinkled, faded tattoos wishing they'd never got them. That comes in from Oshin. All right, that's one way of looking at it. Right, back to more of those comments in the not too distant. Dara Fleming, as I mentioned, is joining us. He's a digital communications and content lead with A Lust for Life and a mental health blogger. Good morning to you, Dara. How are you getting on?
Good morning, how are you? I'm good.
I'm doing good. Now, we read that 1 in 10 adults between the ages of 18 and 37 have been a victim of intimate image abuse, according to a 2021 survey, and it's increasingly happening more often to men. This means it's likely that several people has had this happen to them, but can't talk about it due to shame and stigma. But Dara, you found yourself in this position under this threat, and you decided to take a different route. Tell us the background to the story.
Yeah, so it's about 2 weeks ago now. I was basically made a victim of this, and it came about because I matched someone on a dating app called Hinge. We were chatting, just getting to know each other. Pictures were exchanged, and then it was revealed that the person I was talking to wasn't the person I was talking to, and it was actually a scam artist looking for €2,000 in exchange for not leaking my photos, which I refused to pay, and blocked them on everything. And eventually they left me alone. And even since that's happened, several people have got in touch saying it's happening to them now. It's happened to them in the past, and looking for kind of advice on what to do. And it's not like I'm an expert in this, bar my own experience, but I think the main thing is to don't pay these people, because as soon as you pay them, they keep coming back asking for more, and they bombard you with messages, and they just kind of plague your existence. And then, I guess for me, because I didn't have control over the images anymore, I wanted to take back some sort of control. So that's why I started tweeting about it. The tweets subsequently kind of went viral. A lot of people knew about it. A lot of news organizations picked it up. And now I've kind of become, I suppose, not involuntary, but it just has happened that I am now talking about it publicly to hopefully help people, because a lot of people do end up taking their own lives, and it can be very, very traumatic and cause a lot of mental health problems. So I'm just trying to talk about it as much as I can in the hope that we can help people get through what is an incredibly challenging experience.
Before we get to how people deal with it if they find themselves in this situation, has it given you pause for thought on sharing in intimate images? Are you advising people to think twice about that, or if you know what I mean? I think it's an awful lot more common than people might imagine. If you weren't inclined to do it, it might seem like the craziest thing anyone could do, right? But I'm sure a lot of people don't see it as a problem.
Yeah, I suppose it's a generational thing. Like anyone who's a millennial or Gen Z or below, it's pretty much the most normal part of it is a normal part of dating in the modern world. But I can understand it probably seems absolutely bizarre for anyone older than that. But yeah, like my learning is that I'm not going to be sending those types of images anymore, because, and especially like, you're sending them to people you think you can trust, and then those people are betraying that trust. So it doesn't come down to like, oh, I'm not sending them to the wrong people. I'm just not sending them to people because there's no point in taking that risk anymore. Not that I would say it's my fault that they've been leaked, because the crime was committed against me. It's the person's fault, but at the same time, you can lower the risk by not sending them.
Do you think the scammer ever has any intention ever in these cases of actually releasing the images, or do they presume that they hit on people? Maybe they're in a relationship, maybe they're a member of the Gardaí, maybe they're a judge, or maybe they're just incredibly shy. Do you think that they're banking on people not taking the risk? Like, do you think that these scammers actually do publish these photos? I presume they end up posted somewhere, but as part of this blackmail scam.
I imagine in certain contexts they do, but I'd say like this one felt very much like, because the man in question was based in Nigeria, that it's a scam firm. Like, and I've been thinking about it and having conversations a lot, and what I've kind of concluded is that leaking the pictures actually is bad for business, for want of a better phrase, because if it becomes very normal for people's nudes to be leaked online, then we'd be seeing people's nudes left, right, and center. And that would make it normal for people's nudes to be leaked, which would take the sting out of the threat of leaking them, because it'd be like, oh, Dara's nudes were leaked and nothing bad happened to him, so if mine are leaked, it'll be fine, and then people won't be paying. It's the threat that has the power, and that's when people pay. But if it becomes a thing where nudes are being leaked all the time, then that threat won't have the same power.
What was the nature of the exchanges, in the early stages? So obviously once they had obtained these intimate photos of you, do you believe that the sort of the language from there was automated, or was it someone, ranking or ramping up the threat to try and get you to pay? How did that play out, the back and forth, before you eventually blocked them?
So like after they got the images, well, it was quite sinister. Like, so they text me the images on Snapchat, and they said I had 10 seconds to tell them to stop, and then they quite condescendingly started counting down from 10 in text. So I told them to stop, and then this person actually rang me via Snapchat from the girl's Snapchat who I thought I was texting, and it was a man's voice. And he said, you have it really nice in Ireland, you have nice jobs, you have good money, I want some of that money, it's not that good here in Nigeria. Then I said, that's not my fault, why are you making me, the victim of this? And then he said, you're going to pay 2,000. I said, I don't have €2,000. He asked me how much I could afford. I said 500. He started laughing and said, that's not enough. Then he asked me if I had Bitcoin. I said no. Then he was quite annoyed at this. He was like, hey, don't you have Bitcoin? I just said, I just don't have Bitcoin. And then he said, okay, you're going to have to get Bitcoin and you're going to have to download this app. And once he started saying that, I hung up. And he rang back immediately and was very angry. He was like, why did you hang up on me? Don't hang up on me again. And I said, oh, I thought you told me to hang up on you. Then he started going on about some app again. I blocked him again, or I hung up again. Then I blocked him on Snapchat. Then he messaged me through Instagram from a burner account saying, I'll reduce the price to 500. Your photos are being uploaded now. This is your last chance. Let's settle this with peace. I don't want to ruin your life. Be a good man, do the right thing. And then I blocked him again. And that was kind of the last I heard from him. Now I have subsequently heard of people who had paid the initial fee.
Wow.
And when that happens, they're far more invasive. Like, they message you off.
Well, they've got got a hold of you at that point because they know that you're. And was there ever a price that you would have paid early on? I mean, obviously, it's been a whole learning process since. But at the beginning, if he'd have said €50, would you send it? I wonder.
Like when he said 2,000 and I counter offered with 500, if he'd said yes to that, because of the panic I was feeling, the walls were like closing in. I couldn't think. I probably would have paid that, and that would have been a terrible mistake to make. So it was lucky that he said 500 was okay, maybe like 40 minutes after the initial contact, because I had calmed down a bit, and I could kind of start thinking again. So yeah, 500 I probably would have paid because I could have afforded it. It was just that his price point initially was too high that I couldn't have afforded it anyway. So I was lucky in that sense. Like, it wasn't this level-headed, I knew exactly what I was doing move. It was very much I just can't afford this price.
Yeah, so Dara, obviously you've used this opportunity, you took the decision to go public with it, but in this day and age as well, that in and of itself puts you out there. And there's a lot, you talked about an anonymity, there's a lot of anonymous accounts out there on social media and what have you. What has been the response? I mean, obviously you've been platformed and you've had the opportunity to get the information out there, and I think that's really good. But has it exposed you to any other elements of social media that you weren't expecting, like people saying, "Oh, it's your fault," or nasty messages or whatever? Have you received any of that?
Yeah, to be fair, for the most part, it has been extremely positive and supportive, and people reaching out to see if I'm okay. There has been elements of shaming, sometimes from trolls, sometimes from real people. The editor of the Irish Medical Times, for one, was shaming me publicly on Twitter. And what's probably the most surprising is that a lot of young women have been shaming me and telling me it's my own fault and victim blaming. And that's surprising, just in the context of the world we live in, where we're very much against victim blaming when it comes to sexual assault against women, as we should be. But there are, and like, not a majority of young women by any means, but a certain amount of young women have been victim blaming me for this happening, which just seems inappropriate in the world we live in now. So it does happen. I mean, I knew when I was going public it would happen. Like anything you put on social media, there are going to be a lot of people who are on your side, and there are going to be some people who... It's
just a very, very complicated world now. There's just no right, wrong, black, white, whatever way you want to describe it. It's just, you put it out there. You put yourself out there on any subject, and there will be those that try and take you down. Okay, Dara, listen, thanks for your time this morning. I do appreciate it. I hope we're getting on all okay, and hopefully these images don't pop up anyway, because it's your own private self, and it wouldn't be nice for anyone. All right, take care of yourself.
Thanks. Have a good one.
Bye-bye. Dara Fleming there, digital communications and content lead with the Lust for Life and mental health blogger, 086 60 25,000. WhatsApps and texts to that number on that issue. Maybe you've been a victim of such a scam. It'd be hard to know what to do in that situation. There was a point, he says, yeah, I would have paid. Right, back to the issue of tattoos and Gardaí. Tattoos are a sign of low intelligence, believes a listener. I'm sure that's not the case at all. Another, totally agree, tattoos are yuck. Hidden under clothes is one thing, but would I take a guard serious if he had tattoos all over his face? Would I feel safe if he came to my door? Not sure I would. I think the tattoos over the face thing is maybe, you don't see that very often. It is very, very rare. But we were kind of talking more about tattoos on the forearms. As far as I'm aware, Aer Lingus don't allow tattoos on cabin crew. Apparently Aer Lingus now recently have only just done away with being able to compel women to wear high heels. A caller says the reason we shouldn't feed seagulls. We had a texter in yesterday that says, look, and reference the Bible and saying it's good to feed seagulls. You should do it. This caller says the reason we shouldn't feed seagulls is because it's rewarding unwanted behaviour. What gets rewarded is repeated, so the seagulls will congregate around areas where people have fed them before in built-up tourist locations. This can be very off-putting. Seagulls will also adapt and start stealing food from people. Indeed, I've seen the TikToks. A caller says on the subject of the increase of drink costs, bars are now charging $3.50 for a bottle of water. $3.50 for a bottle of water, but I suppose it's not just the water you're paying for, it's the service, it's the light, it's the heat, it's the seat, maybe it's the music. I'm not saying that is... I'm not saying I agree with it fully, but I'm saying that's the argument that might be made. Hi, Greg. Went out for a night during a festival. Couldn't believe the expense of drink out. €150 gone and nothing to show for it. Not even a hangover. I'll be drinking at home from now on. Thanks Mary, loving your show as usual. Thank you very much indeed. Greg, did my HGV test in the town years ago. Now, when someone says in the town, you know they're talking about Letterkenny because it's the only town that exists for some. I'm looking at Caroline, in the town. No, I go to different towns. No, sorry, Caroline, sorry. But anyway, that's fine. It's not something that bothers me at all. Hi, Greg. Did my HGV test in Letterkenny years ago, and coming down from Goatley Brae to Oatfield roundabout, there's a yellow box. Traffic was stopped at the red light, and I came down and nicely took an OK back to the test centre. Sorry, took it nicely and then trucked back to the test centre. I failed because I didn't stop first before moving off because the stop sign was turned sideways to me and I didn't see it. Wrote to council about this but no response and didn't even fix the sign. Got it. Hi, Greg. Typically, the excise duty on a pint of 43%. ABV beer is 54%. The minister and non-alcoholic beer is not liable for any excise duty. Alcohol beverages are subject to the standard rate of VAT, currently 23%. Therefore, the profit made on non-alcohol drinks is massive. Thank you for that. Puts a bit more meat on the bone there. Right. I'm going to take a break and then we're going to be discussing whether or not there should be by-elections. Do you think it's one of the issues that's been referred to the Electoral Commission to discuss? So what do you think? Should by-elections be scrapped? Of course, we had a huge controversy and a drawn-out situation and legal action taken to force a by-election. But do you think they should be gone altogether? Former election candidate Declan Meehan's going to be joining us after this break to discuss it. We'll get his views.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
Go full Lidl for a healthy portion of savings. With Irish Board Bia approved lean beef mince was $4.19, now $3.59. Grab 40% off your 5 a day with Irish courgettes, Irish mushrooms, blueberries, tomatoes and apples. Get the full scoop Gelatelli ice cream tubs were $2.99, now just $2.49. Go on, shop without compromise. Go full Lidl today.
Get a great Clarence gift this week from McGee's Chemist in Letterkenny. Buy 2 Clarence skincare products, one to be moisturiser or serum, and you'll get a choice of 3 treat-sized essentials from a selection of 10. Which 3 will you choose? This great Clarence offer is available while stocks last, in-store at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny and online at mcgees.ie, where the best costs less. For any skincare advice, call in and talk to the resident skincare consultants, Mary or Gemma.
Join us on August 19th from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. at Uncraving Community Centre, Termon for a community engagement event. Open to all, discover valuable financial insights, energy-saving tips and expert advice on retrofitting your home. Learn about solar, renewable energy and how to avail of SEAI grants. Uncraving Community Centre, Termon. Mark your calendar and be part of this informative event.
Did you know there are more places than ever to top up your TFI Leap card? Well, now you do. You can buy and top up TFI Leap cards in over 2,500 agents, including all post offices. You can also top up your TFI Leap card with the Leap Top Up app on iPhone and Android. And remember, young adult and student Leap cards can only be ordered online. To download the app and find your nearest agent, go to leapcard.ie.
Now, Minister Darragh O'Brien has made or asked a number of questions or referred a couple of issues to the Electoral Commission, I think their phrase is. Anyway, we'll get to what it's called in a second. But amongst them is an examination of the possibility of replacing by-elections with an alternative list system, one where a candidate would be required to provide a list of people who could be co-opted to fill a vacancy should it arise. Such a system is in operation for European elections, and bringing it into the Dáil elections would remove the need for by-elections, Mr O'Brien told the Commission. Let's get Declan Meehan's views. He's a former candidate in the local council elections. What do you think? Are you of the view that... Good morning, sorry, Declan. I've just lost my manners. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good to have you on the programme. Right, OK. There's one of those switches that is on and the other 3 are off behind you and it's doing my head in. But anyway, I'll carry... Thank you. Sorry, for most people in Radioland don't want. I'm on about Declan's joining me via video. All right, what's your view on scrapping by-elections?
I'd be opposed to it. My opinion is very much that by-elections are a crucial part of our democratic process. When a vacancy arises in the Dáil, the normal course of action is for a by-election to be held. We've seen examples of when government delay as much as possible at times the time in which to hold the by-election, usually because they're worried that they won't be able to hold the seat if the vacancy that's arisen comes from a government TD. Over the past 10 years, there's been 11 by-elections. 9 of them have gone to opposition parties and 2 have been held by the government parties of the day. So I guess you would expect it to come from a government party, particularly maybe from Minister Darragh O'Brien, to try and scrap by-elections. But I think that throwing by-elections out and replacing with an alternative list system devalues the electorate's participation in the democratic process.
Yeah, and it's kind of an interesting thing to even propose. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it does the minister any suggestions by even putting this forward, because particularly if someone loses a seat in controversial circumstances, you know, the public will want to have their say and maybe, you know, punish them for that, rather than seeing someone perhaps with the same moral compass and political ideology just slide into that. It doesn't sound democratic to me.
No, absolutely not. I mean, it would be unthinkable that in a Dáil by-election where someone had to resign because of corruption, scandal or misconduct, that someone else from that party would be able to hold on to that seat regardless. I mean, by-elections are a great barometer and a great measure of how an electorate thinks within a constituency. And it's their opportunity to react to changing circumstances from the last general election. So again, by-elections are crucially important for that reason.
So what's your view? And I mean, obviously, we can't have by-elections at council level. Do you have any views on the whole co-option process? Because that too can be interesting in that, you know, someone who is stepping down by choice might do it a year out from election to get someone in, to give them a year at it, and then they can stand for election themselves. I know it really is kind of a separate issue, but it kind of is similar at the same time as well. Do you think maybe what we see at council level is a perfect example as to why we need to retain by-elections at national level?
I do, yeah. I think co-option, is a very, I suppose, cynically practical kind of a measure in terms of council by-elections, but it kind of speaks to the volume that central government doesn't really value council elections in the same way that it does Dáil elections, and yet they're very important for local government. And so when we have a co-option system in place, while I suppose it saves the electorate and the taxpayer money in terms of not having to run an election on a small scale within an electoral area, to replace someone on the county council or city councils, it still kind of devalues, again, the kind of democratic process whereby the custom is simply to allow the family of the person who's resigning, particularly after a death, to put someone forward to take that seat instead. And all parties, including independents, kind of buy into that system of co-option whereby it has to be obviously voted on by the entire council. But I mean, by-elections would be ideal in that situation. I mean, we see it in the European Parliament. That's probably the system at the minute where there's an alternative list, which is what Darragh O'Brien's suggesting that the Commission look into for Dáil elections. So most recent example would be when Mairead McGuinness moved into her commissioner role, and Colin Markey was on her alternate list. But the people weren't afforded an opportunity to vote on that. And that's a very, very high profile and a very important position at the European Parliament level.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting about that too is, you know, there's great efforts being made by MEPs and, you know, staff in certain areas or all over the place, to try and, you know, talk about the importance of Europe. And yeah. You know, I that's counterintuitive because it's like, well, how can it be? It can't be that important if you just, you know, airdrop someone into a position. You know what I mean? So, but then again, they might be concerned as to how many people might turn out for a by-election and how much it might cost.
But I mean, how many people turn out for a by-election is up to the people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly it. That's, I mean, what 37% of voters didn't turn up for the 2020 election, and that was their choice to do so. And that's also part of the democratic process, is turnout. And as you say, there's been great strides made and great efforts by MEPs and by European institutions to try and address the democratic deficit, where people don't feel a direct link to the European Parliament. And the European Parliament now has an enhanced role within the mechanisms of the EU. And yet to not have a by-election when a vacancy arises sort of diminishes that and kind of undoes that good work that people are trying to and have been trying to undo over the past number of years. So I think it really is about the people's connection to the democratic institutions. So Minister Darragh O'Brien, his suggestion for looking into scrapping by-elections for the Dáil would be a most unwelcome development in this area.
They're also going to be looking at lowering the voting age. Do you have a view on that?
Yeah, I mean, the voting age, this is something that's been going on for years. As far back as 2013, one of the first constitutional conventions recommended that a referendum be held so that people could decide whether or not to lower the voting age to 16. Another constitutional convention, Citizens' Assembly, in 2018 voted by 80% to lower the age to 16. There's been a number of moves. There's been a number of private members' bills, both in the Shannon and the Dáil, from Sinn Féin senators and also from Donegal's own Thomas Pringle, to lower the voting age and to have a referendum based on those Constitutional Convention and Citizen Assembly reports. The European Parliament also passed a report back in 2015 to lower the age to 16 for European parliamentary elections. And the whole idea behind that is to engage younger voters sooner rather than later.
See, I don't think we've
given.
I always feel, Declan, that conversation really comes down to, parties or individuals that might benefit from the votes of the 16 and 17-year-olds because they might be maybe more liberal, or they might be, and then those that maybe would seek out a more conservative vote, afraid that could be damaging to them. I don't recall ever having or hearing a debate on the benefits or negatives outside of that, if that makes sense, and what it might do, or how it might change the political landscape, or what might come from it, or what might be the advantage, or indeed what might be the disadvantage. Have we ever really had that debate outside as to who might benefit from this cohort voting?
Not really. I mean, the National Youth Council of Ireland have done a lot of work on this, and it's been kind of a policy of theirs for the past 10, if not 15 years, to campaign for a lower voting age to 16. And their, I suppose, reasons for campaigning for that are that, a lot of the decisions that are taken in terms of taxation, benefits, whatever else, they're going to impact 16 and 17-year-olds for maybe 10 and 20 years. You look at the bank bailout, for example, which impacts all of us for such a long time, and people who weren't able to vote at that stage. So it's about giving people a voice on issues that will affect them. The other argument to be made is that, you're able to have a family from the age of 16 and to get married. You're able to consent to medical procedures. You're also able to engage in employment. So, I guess the reason, or, why not? Why shouldn't they be able to vote at that stage? I guess there is obviously a conservatism within the established parties around lowering that age, because you look at any polls and you'll see that Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil are not very popular with the under 30s, never mind the under 18s. So you can imagine why there might be reticence there to change it. But this particular thing that's been asked of the Electoral Commission to look into under the voting age was actually a Green initiative under the Programme for Government. So again, I guess you see, like, this is the nature of coalition government. You have a number of tasks being put forward for the Electoral Commission to research and consider, and they come from different ends of the spectrum within that coalition.
Yeah, I'd say nothing will change and they'll just have a chat. But anyway, it gives us an opportunity to have a chat. Declan, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Have a lovely day. Take care of yourself. Okay, that is Declan Meehan there, who is a former candidate in the local council elections. So, A, do you believe by-elections should be scrapped in favour of a list system? And B, would you like to see 16 and 17-year-olds get a vote? 086 60 25,000. WhatsApps and text to that number. Greg, local elections, do you realise that to check if you are still registered to vote, that you have to insert your PPS number to get access? Is this not just another way of bringing us closer to a national ID card? The PPS number is supposed to only be used by the Department of Social Protection, although they've called it destruction, and I suspect it is not a typo. I find it hard to comment on that or whatever. I'll throw it out there because I don't really... I had to get one of those national ID cards for something or other. I don't know what it was, which involved your PPS numbers on it. And I don't really have a great protection of my PPS number, so I don't really get the concern about your PPS number or a national ID card, for an example. I don't have a concern about that, so it's hard for me to. So just throw it out to the listeners and see if you agree or disagree. A caller says simply, Greg, yes, there should be by-elections held. Now, can anyone answer the question as to why these people cannot be deported after completing their sentence? And that goes for anyone who's given asylum and then breaks the law in America. Also, in a lot of other countries, you would be deported after serving your sentence. This would be a great deterrent. That fella is sending nude photos in the first place is all what is wrong with societies. These dating sites are rotten. And just as it relates to that first text, the person, if you're referring to this sextortion, they were not living in this country. They were outside the country. Regarding tattoos, I often wonder why people feel the need to deface their own bodies. Is it an indication of low self-esteem? Personally, I think tattoos are ugly and are in no way attractive. I understand that some people like them, but some of us are equally entitled not to like them. And you do that, really, I suppose, by not putting them on your body, rather than maybe criticising other people or questioning their self-esteem. And I mean that with absolute respect, but that's what personal choice is, isn't it? You decide what you put on your body or you don't. But if someone decides to have a tattoo, free choice then is not you sort of saying, well, you're doing it because you've got low self-esteem. But anyway, it is well known that parental alienation contributes to up to 10% of Irish suicides. So why are there no special services to help them? Another caller says, in my uneducated opinion, I can't see the misogyny of the Catholic Church ever allowing female priests. Sure, weren't the 12 apostles all men, according to the 4 men whose gospels are used at every mass? And yes, I'm a practicing Catholic. That comes in from Rita. Rita, great to have you on board. Thank you so much for your comment this morning. A caller says, as it relates to where are the Gardaí, I think we've the 4th, 5th highest rate of Gardaí in Donegal per head of population. A caller says, Gardaí are obviously behind desks or in cars. They're not on the beat. The strategy of this government is that Gardaí react to incidences by looking for camera footage and the population to supply evidence to them. That comes in from Daniel. In my opinion, Southern media are slow to report or not at all on sectarian abuse by band members parading in the north. Brush it under the carpet effort, perhaps. Certainly not the case here. If someone rings in or sends a text in or what have you and wants to discuss that, we discuss it. And I believe the incident, if I'm correct, that you're referring to was covered on the news here. Hi, Greg. Good to have you back. Thank you. It's great to be back. Concerning DBS, has anyone... who has this is defective block scheme. Has anyone who has had application number applied and proceeded through scheme been contacted by council regarding the enhanced scheme? Surely there should be informing us all on what the next stage will require. The scheme has gone backwards by 5 years in this caller's opinion. It's like snakes and ladders. Keep the pressure on, lad. You're our only voice. Well, as much as I can do, I will do. All right, let's take a quick break.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
The world awaits you. Make that dream your next adventure. Cruise the Caribbean, sail from Crete to Corsica, soak in Santorini sunsets, dine on the shores of the Indian Ocean, stroll through cobbled streets for hidden gems, or bring the little ones to a magical wonderland. trust the award-winning Atlantic Travel to guide your next adventure. Step through our doorway to the world. Atlantic Travel, Letterkenny.
Oreo the robot is not just helping staff with service at Kelly's Diner, but he's also adding a little twist to birthdays there. If you're celebrating your birthday at Kelly's, Oreo can be persuaded to sing a very special happy birthday. It's a great treat for small kids and plenty of big kids too. For the chance to see and hear Oreo the robot in action, visit Kelly's award-winning diner today at Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
Our McCullough Jewelers in Letterkenny are synonymous with fine jewellery, quality watches and giftware. With stores at Main Street, Letterkenny and the Letterkenny Shopping Centre or online at ourmccullough.com. You can choose from their quality product range in a relaxed atmosphere, and their sales staff will be happy to help you make the right choice whatever the occasion. Our McCullough Jewelers, making moments magical for generations.
A caller asks, how did RTE run up debts of 90 million? Was there no oversight of their spending or the competence of DFOB? Surely the crazy salaries being paid to third-rate presenters was a cause for concern. The Director General seems to have had an open checkbook. Now that the crows have come home to roost, she has, like the swallows, flown off to sunnier climes with a suitcase full of our licence fee money. She won't be getting any more of mine. I agree that RTE does not need Ryan Tubridy. If the test card was being shown for those 2 hours, it would be the most watched programme of the week. Okay. Mairead joins us on the programme now. Hi, Mairead. How are you keeping?
Good, thank you, Greg. Thanks.
Now, your daughter, and I've been through this myself over the course of the last 6 or 7 months. Your daughter was due to get a driving test in June. Then it slipped back to July. Then it was August. You have checked again the estimator, and now it's September. It's a nightmare, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a nightmare. And just that, I don't know, has anybody else got this problem? I was talking to the driving instructor, and they say that there is no one driving people doing the test now in Letterkenny at the minute. They're off the past 2 weeks, and they're away training somebody, and it's going to be another 7 weeks. Just my daughter's going to college. There's no public transport to it. It's going to be a 2.5 hour drive for me down on a Sunday evening to take her there. 2.5 hours then for me to come back. Then again, maybe on a Thursday evening or a Friday. Just wondering, is there anybody else in the same boat that's waiting away on tests and can't get it?
And it puts a lot of it puts extra pressure on her as well, the pressure to pass, with every month that slips by. I know Lee, my son's, in his case, it went from May, June, and eventually he sat the test in late July. Have you considered switching test centres? I wonder, does that work? Obviously, Letterkenny, there'd be huge demand. Have you considered Donegal Town or Buncrana? Or maybe if you did switch, you'd go to the back of the list. We don't know. Maybe that's what listeners can help us with today.
Yeah, I don't know. Just a driving instructor said that she thinks that there's a waiting list everywhere at the minute. It's supposed to say that the RSA doesn't like that publicity. I suppose we're just fed up waiting.
Yeah,
every time you go in and you look, and it's another date. So that's just all. Just wondered, was there anybody else in the same boat?
All right, well, we'll put it out there, Mairead, and I'm sure she's ready to go, and you'd be very keen to see her driving, because as you say, you're in rural Donegal, she's going to college in Cavan, there's no bus route, and that would mean a great deal of inconvenience for both you and her. So, Mairead, we'll put it out to the listeners, see what they have to say, if anyone's got any advice, but it is a bit of a nightmare situation, and I hope it gets resolved soon. Thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. So Mairead's daughter was to get her driving test in June in Letterkenny. Then it went to July. Then it went to August. Now they've checked the estimator and it is September. And the daughter needs the car to head to college in Cavan. For obvious reasons, there's no local transport there. Right. A caller says, I am a Catholic all my life, but the Catholic Church is the most corrupt religion in the world. All they care about is money, 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 and most of the parish priests still think they rule the people of their parish, and this is taking place. Why? Because of the people they have in their committees. All of those people are yes people. Is that fair? I've never really come across that much myself. Now, I'm not saying I'm a regular attendee, don't get me wrong, but that wouldn't necessarily be a a church that I recognise. OK, we want your views on that and everything else, of course, that we're discussing this morning, or indeed for you to raise your own issues. 086 60 25,000 WhatsApps and texts to that number, or give us a call on 07491 25,000. It is the 9 till noon show. We'll be back with the next hour after we take a break for the news and obituary notices.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
New this week at Home Store and More. All Reed diffusers are all half price. But better hurry, because when all the half price Reed diffusers are gone, they're gone. Also, all pet beds, toys and accessories and all 100% cotton children's duvet sets are still all half price. But when all the half price pet beds, toys and accessories and 100% cotton children's duvet sets are gone, they're definitely gone. Drop by your local Home Store and More, or visit us online at homestoreandmore.ie. New store now open in Frascati Centre, Dublin. Home Store and More. A happy home.
With electrified finance rates available exclusively at iMotors. Find out how affordable our used electrical vehicles are with finance rates from 3.9% on all used electrical vehicles at iMotors. Low finance, no fuel bills. Doesn't it sound like the perfect second car for your household? Call in to Letterkenny or Malin to find out more or visit imotors.ie.
Hi, Declan Erna here to tell you about a great summer dance coming your way to the Melon Country in Oma this Friday night with my special guest John Hogan and the great Mick Flaffin. That's the Melon Country in Oma this Friday night with my special guest John Hogan and Mick Flaffin.
Admission £15.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, I'm Michaela Clark with the news at 10 o'clock. Relatives of the victims of the Oma bombing will lay flowers at the site of the blast in the town this afternoon. Today marks 25 years since a £500 car bomb detonated in the town centre, killing 29 people and unborn twins. A mass was held in St Mary's Oratory last night, during which the three Buncrana schoolboys, 8-year-old Oren Doherty and 12-year-olds Sean McLaughlin and James Barker, and two Spanish visitors staying in Donegal killed in the explosion, were remembered. The parish priest of Buncrana, Father John Walsh, during his homily, says a bomb is an attack on human dignity and a sign that those behind it hold human life in contempt.
A bomb in Oma, for example, is a horrible intrusion on normality. It seems to be proclaiming with a sort of global contempt that in the final analysis, individuals are expendable and human beings don't matter at all.
Father John Joe Duffy says while a tsunami hit Creaslough on October the 7th last year, the community was lifted by a tidal wave of support. He was speaking as he led the National Novena at Knock Basilica last evening. An explosion at a shop in the village last year claimed the lives of 10 people, with Father Duffy describing the initial scene as one of tremendous shock, horror and disbelief. He says it was a day that will never be forgotten.
Creaslough is a small village that few heard of. However, that was changed through this cruel and unfair tragedy that befell us. But we are surviving and we are gaining strength and becoming stronger. Our hearts will never forget those who are taking from us.
Teachers are calling on the Education Minister to overhaul the profession to attract more people into the job. The Association of Secondary Teachers in Ireland says 81% of principals or deputy principals have hired an unqualified teacher in the last year. There are at least 416 vacant teaching jobs in secondary schools across the country. The ASTI's Kieran Christie is calling for action from Minister Foley.
What's needed now from the Minister is a strong, structured and fundamental change of mindset that will solve this problem, maybe not in the next week, but certainly in the coming couple of years.
A woman remains in hospital following an incident involving a cyclist and a pedestrian in Derry last night. It's unclear what the incident involved, but it occurred at around 22:10 but police say access to the area was restricted as they and the ambulance service attended the scene on Belt Road in the Waterside area. The female pedestrian was walking with her dog at the time and was taken to hospital for treatment to injury sustained, where she remains at this time. Police are appealing for witnesses or any motorist who may have dashcam footage to contact them. Mackerel scanners are to be installed in processing plants in Killybegs as part of an international scientific initiative. Vital information will then be gathered to help inform the management of northeast Atlantic mackerel. Ellen Butler has more.
BIM is working in collaboration with the Marine Institute and pelagic fishers and processors to install mackerel scanners in processing plants in Killybegs. 2 tagging units installed in Killybegs at the end of last year are already capturing important data. Dr. Andrew Campbell, pelagic fisheries team lead, Marine Institute, says in total 66 tagged fish have been detected to date, and he's hopeful that more valuable tag return data will be generated from the Irish mackerel fishery as more scanning units are installed. Mackerel's worth to Ireland was valued at €95 million in 2022.
Weather now today will be a bright day with sunny spells and scattered showers. Highest temperatures of 17 or 18 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with an update again at 11 o'clock. Until then, good morning. The obituary notice says for this Tuesday morning, August the 15th. The death has taken place of Anne Mongan, 25, Cashel Park, Lisnanen, Letterkenny. Remains will repose at the Eternal Light Chapel of Rest, Carnamugga, Letterkenny, where you may pay your respects tomorrow from 4:30 until 6:30. Removal after to the Church of the Irish Martyrs, Gortley, Letterkenny, to arrive at 7 o'clock and to repose overnight. Funeral Mass on Thursday morning at 11 o'clock. Burial afterwards in New Leck Cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed on the Church of the Irish Martyrs YouTube channel. Donations, if desired, to the Donegal Hospice, care of Patrick Sweeney, Funeral Directors. The death has taken place of Patrick Mallon, 17, and Struhan, Ramelton, Coventry, England, and the Moy, County Tyrone. Pat's remains are reposing at his late residence. Funeral from there tomorrow afternoon for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Ramelton at 2:30, followed by interment in Tully Cemetery. House private to family, please, before the funeral tomorrow. Funeral Mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu to the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member. The death has taken place of Ewan McLaughlin, late of Ocht, Chur, Muff, Donegal. Remains reposing at his parents' home, 11 Carnabean Road, Dungiven. Funeral from his parents' home tomorrow morning, leaving at 10:15 for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass in St Joseph's Church, Banagher. Interment immediately afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Donations, if wished, in lieu to the Kevin Bell Repatriation Trust, care of McLaughlin, Funeral Directors, Dungiven. The death has taken place of James McFadden, 14, Chestnut Grove, Ramelton. Remains are reposing at his home. Funeral Mass tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock in St Mary's Church, Ramelton. Burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. Family time before the funeral tomorrow. Family flowers only. Donations, if desired, to the Alzheimer's Society of Ireland, care of any family member. And the death has taken place of Breed McGinley of Main Street, Dunfanaghy. Wake is taking place at her home. Funeral Mass in Holy Cross Church, Dunfanaghy today at 12 noon, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Mass can be viewed live on mcnmedia.tv. Family time until 11 o'clock. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu to the Lake House Comfort Fund, care of any family member or James Harkin, Funeral Director. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Fuel your day the Happy Pear way. With bursts of wholesome goodness in every bite, the Happy Pear's Granola Crunch range makes snacking irresistibly delicious and nutritious. Perfect for breakfast on the go, that mid-morning slump or afternoon pick-me-up. Find your new favourite snack in selected Super Value and Centra stores and get ready to crunch.
All right, you're very welcome back to the second hour of the 9 till noon show here in Highland Radio. Let's have a look at some of your comments coming in this morning. By-elections, says this listener, are a great barometer of public opinion of government performance. Plus, they put a spotlight on local issues that would never be addressed. Imagine how Mike issue would be raised if a TD in Donegal if a government TD resigned. It would be an interesting by-election campaign, no doubt about that. Another caller asks, if 16-year-olds can vote, will that mean if they commit a crime, they'll be charged as an adult, they believe? I think it's a fair question. I live in an estate, and the estate next door runs to the back of my garden. They've got a dog which they let out at about 9 in the evening, and it goes mad barking. This is a time when I'm just putting my kids to bed, and it's driving me crazy and making bedtime routine impossible. Is there any laws around this? Talking to the owners is not an option, they believe. Have you had a similar situation like this in the past? And this does come up from time to time, and people have messaged in on this issue during our legal slot with Seamus. I don't know what role the council or dog warden has in this, but I do understand exactly what it must be like when you're trying to establish a nighttime routine for young ones in the house, and this barking starts every night. I wonder, is there any way you could maybe drop a letter into the house rather than confronting them? Say, look, I live close to you. I've got young children. Your dog barks every night. Is that an option? But outside of that, outside of appealing to their better judgment, is there any realistic option open to them that perhaps maybe avoids direct confrontation? I'm not saying that that's what they want to avoid, but the tone of the message suggests that. Hi, Greg. Just wondering, when is the new county manager expected to be announced? The club championship's about to start. Surely an appointment should be expected before this starts. We know Jim is strongly linked. However, that's only a rumour at the moment. I wouldn't put any money on that. I'm not sure. I didn't get to listen to the DL debate live last night. I know that's something they were discussing, and there would have been a good insight in that. But I'll send out a few texts and see if we can get an answer for you. A caller says, I had to wait 4 months for my driving test. It's a disgrace. There should be made resources available to improve this. Well, they are promising extra testers to cut these waiting lists. And that might be good for people in the future if it comes to pass. But there are those waiting now. And it is very complicated when you can't drive, particularly in rural Ireland, that what happens into the future is of no comfort to them right now. Morning, Greg. I don't agree with 16-year-olds being allowed to vote. They haven't enough knowledge of life, and I don't mean that disrespectful to our young. Lots of young have completed their leaving cert and don't really know what they want to do, so don't see how they can decide at 16 as to who or how our country should be run. Stick with 18, in my opinion. I'm not being smart or facetious or whatever. I'm literally putting this out here as a genuine point of view. There are those that would say it's been left to adults 18 plus for quite some time now. And what has the outcome of that been? You know, could it get, some might say, I'm not saying it, some might say, could it get any worse if 16 and 17-year-olds had their say? Maybe it's their knowledge that might change the direction of the country if you feel it's not going into the right direction. And I'm just throwing that out there as a, not even a counter view, as a further point of discussion. I just say, just a message to say, the O'Doherty's keep in Swans Park, Buncrana is up for sale and would make a great museum. So Donegal County Council, please don't miss out on buying it up. I think later on in the show we're going to hear from someone who believes that the a GoFundMe should be put together to try and keep that in public ownership or out of private hands. Stay with us. Great numbers attended Mass celebrated by Father Sean Doherty in St. Nunan's Cathedral, Letterkenny last night. Such a beautiful special evening. Faith is strong and quite evident to see when so many of all ages queued to receive Father Sean's blessing. Well done and sincere thanks to all involved in organising arrangements so those present had an opportunity to be present on a very special gathering. That comes in from Kathleen in Letterkenny. And finally, just before we take the bingo numbers, I want to give a mention to a Convoy Community Family Fun Day. It's taking place at Convoy Arsenal Pitch this coming Saturday, the 19th of August, and it runs from 12 noon until 3 p.m. So activities include an obstacle course, football games, face painting, scavenger games and crafts, football, darts and kites. And it welcome new families into the Convoy community as well. The event has been kindly supported by DLDC and local community groups. All children under 14, of course, should be accompanied by an adult. So get along to Convoy Arsenal Pitch this coming Saturday between 12 noon and 3 p.m. for a great afternoon of fun.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Tuesday, the 15th of August. You're playing on the brown sheet. The reference number is S2. It's game number 33. The numbers are 11, 26, 24, 64, 28, 72, 38, 74, 66, and finally 8. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI bingo information at highlandradio.com.
What's your dream job? Lawyer? Software developer? Engineer? Or criminologist? Do you want to develop renewable energies? Create the next great drama? Or improve people's health? Anything is possible at Ulster University, where you can study in the heart of Derry Londonderry. Clearing places are now available to help you realise your ambitions. It's time to say hello, future. Apply now for September 2023 at ulster.ac.uk/clearing.
With the largest selection of pre-owned vehicles in the Northwest, check out imotors.ie. We have it all. Starter cars, family cars, and even a bit of luxury, all available to drive away. All cars come serviced and with warranty. Check out imotors.ie.
Big Band Country Nights continue at Logues of Cranford this Tuesday with Jerry Guthrie and his band. That's another Big Band Country Night this Tuesday with Jerry Guthrie at Logues of Cranford, where you'll also find music in the Wee Bar on Saturdays and old-time dancing on Sunday night.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate holiday loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
All right, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show, and it is time for...
The Community Garda information slot is brought to you by Sheridan Security Systems, protecting what you value most. Call today and get your zero-wire alarm system from €299. Sheridan Security, 91-26025.
Okay, we're joined in studio by Garda Sergeant Paul Wallace, the county's crime prevention officer. Thanks for joining us, Paul.
Thank you, Greg.
It's good to have you in studio. Right, okay. We're going to start with some information, and I think it's quite timely, given that it's mid-August, and a lot of the scramble for accommodation is already underway and continuing. And there is some information out there as it relates to accommodation fraud warning.
Yeah, we've been asked to put this out at this time of the year because we're looking at a 38% increase in accommodation fraud last year compared to 2021, and this is the time of year it happens, August and September. People are mad looking for accommodation. 50% of the victims are under the age of 25, and 55% of them are female. I suppose the ladies are more organised than the males in a lot of times, and again, half of this crime occurs in Dublin. But we've a lot of money being taken. Over 2 million stolen in accommodation fraud over the last 5 years. So it's significant. Plus it's not just a monetary cost as well. You have the whole thing of the uncertainty then and trying where am I going to stay and distances and all that. And we've heard and you're probably aware of it yourself, of people travelling daily on the bus from Letterkenny to Dublin to go to college. It's unbelievable. So
I mean, they're able to tap into people's desperation and panic as well. Yeah. So how, generally speaking, does the fraud work, or what are the red flags?
Well, they'll not be able to show you the property as such. They pay the deposit and you'll lose the deposit. What will happen then is people start to panic. They don't think to look at this address. Simple check, like on Google Maps, what does the place look like? To ask the person who's doing the renting what services are nearby, where's the local supermarkets, that sort of thing. And they blindly pay over the money. Young people do a lot over their phones and all of that, using Revolut and the different financial platforms, and that suits the fraudster as such because they can make off. They probably aren't even in the country. And the messages will basically only come through Messenger or WhatsApp and all that. There'll be that degree of distance between the interface between the person looking for the accommodation and the person saying they're going to provide.
But to all intents and purposes, until it becomes clear that the property does not exist or is not available, or the person has no connection to it, the fraudster, it it will seem like a regularly normal
transaction,
process. Yeah.
And like what we would be saying, or the advice would be to do your research, use the recognised letting agencies, talk to your college or your students' union who will guide you there, and be careful of cloned websites. Ensure they're real. Check the URL and that sort of thing. Know your rights, and if you decide then to take up the accommodation, use only trusted money transfer systems like PayPal or something like that, because it's the same as buying something on eBay. If you're involved with an auction or purchase, and particularly maybe an auction, and have some experience of this, and then the person contacts you and said, well, look, I'll take a bit less, we'll do the deal between ourselves. You've lost the protection of the money transfer system then, and you're really at the loss.
And I think really our geography works as a disadvantage to us because, people might say to you, well, listen, you don't need to come and see it. It's perfect. I'll send you some pictures of the inside, and because it's probably an 8-hour round trip in some cases, you go, right, okay, that will do. Again, that they can exploit that.
They can, and we would recommend that you use a credit card where possible, because there's protections within that. Never agree to rent a property without having an opportunity to use it. Checking that the keys work, that you have proper details. The RTB, the Residential Tenancies Board, are people who provide backup here. And again, as I said, looking for the exact address. And, I'm reminded to a company over in the southwest of the county, when there was a bit of a famine there for containers, metal containers, kind of post-COVID. And they purchased 3 containers at, I think it was about $4,000 a piece. In the UK, and sent their money off and everything, and then they got on to us, and the business owner knew me personally, and I contacted him. First thing I did is, can you send me the address? And into the address, and the address was a 3-bedroom semi-detached house in some part of London, and he said, I've never even thought of that. And
simple stuff.
It's just simple stuff.
If you can't get down to view the property, have a key in your hand, turn the lock, there's something seriously amiss. I mean, that's to request that and not be allowed yourself, well, we've got other people coming today and they might,
Well, that's what they'll do. They'll pressurise you, and it's all this intense pressure, social engineering at its best. And, really, most people that live in Donegal know somebody in Dublin that maybe even could do a drive-by of the place and say, what does it look like? Is it well kept? What colour is the front door? A simple question like that. Is there a letterbox on the door? Something that would tie, and where's the closest supermarket, Super Value, Aldi, Lidl, that sort of stuff. So basically, it's just look at buyer beware, and if it seems too good to be true, it normally is.
Yeah, okay, so you can employ the likes of Google Maps, the RTB.ie, you would hope it is registered. If they're not registered with the Residence Tenancy Board, that in itself
that would be a red flag. And and I know from being at college, the Students' Union are great. They know, and this is relevant to Letterkenny as well, because we have a lot of people coming to the ATU now as well, and you have these fraudsters who mightn't even be in the country.
See, that's it, and we had one with similarly with a caller earlier on, who was being blackmailed for nude images, and the presumption was that this person doing it was in Ireland. It's all remote now. I mean, that
could be anywhere.
There was a house in Donegal that was put up for an Airbnb on Facebook Market, and loads of people, both north and south, lost money. The property simply didn't exist. It was a picture of a house in West Donegal, and they stated it was in Rosnowla. So because of the remote nature of things now, it can be anywhere.
It can be anywhere, and it's a very good point, that these people most likely won't be in the country. They're doing it remotely. You can work from anywhere. And we've had the anecdotal stories of people buying cars and going, and it's not... And it actually happened myself. One time I went to London to buy a car, and the car that I went to look at wasn't the car that was advertised, because when I looked at the ad, and it was probably in the infancy of this, it was on a forecourt, and then I mistakenly or foolishly met, and thankfully I had somebody along with me, but we were actually glad to get out of it, because it wasn't the same. The minute I was walking up, I knew it was wrong. So we all can get caught, we all can let down our guard, we all can maybe think, oh, this is great and all of that. The accommodation one is a difficult one, because it does play on people's vulnerabilities in relation to moving away from home, going to college for the first time, all the costs that are associated with that, and a bit of panic as well.
And often maybe the first time people are doing it and there's a pressure going up the line, like, no, this is perfect, Mom, this is perfect, this is the one, you know, so there's many different reasons.
And one big red flag in this, and I probably missed it there, you know, they're unable to meet up. This sort of thing, and they want the money before you view the property or sign the lease,
because they say you have to secure it or someone else is going to get it, so don't allow yourself to be.
So look, it's just the time of year, it's timely that we would be talking about this, and you know, it's really centred on the main urban areas where the colleges are, but we have a very good college in our own area as well, and hopefully we don't have anybody.
Coming to the end of a string of really successful community events, often despite the poor weather. No major instances to report from.
No, and you know, things are going grand over the summer, and I suppose I just put in a note about that. You know, we had the Donegal Rally, massive crowds, Mary from Dunlo International Festival, the Clonmany Music Festival, all went over very well. You'll certainly have your normal couple of public order of incidents and maybe associated quality of life incidences, then like some damage maybe to property and that. But when you have large crowds moving around and you don't have any serious life-changing crimes happening or accidents or fatalities, it's great to see people out and enjoying themselves again, and we're still, I suppose, operating on the umbrella of post-COVID and getting back to the normal things. So it was great for that to happen. And with that in mind, we have the Letterkenny Festival between the 18th and the 20th. It's opening on Friday evening at 7:30 with the gig rig at McGettigan's Hotel. There's a soapbox derby organised for the Port Road for Sunday the 20th at 2 o'clock. They're meeting up at the Grill car park, and then there's music on the gig rig at Sister Sarah's at 5. Now, they're expecting large crowds, and there will be some planned road closures to run some of the events, like particularly around McGettigan's Hotel and the Port Road and areas like that. On the 19th then is, I think that's Saturday, we have a family fun and entertainment at the Green and Theatre at 2:30, part of Letterkenny Pride. There's a parade at 4:30, and there's music and entertainment throughout the town all day. And I see there's some great acts as well, you know, playing around some of the pubs and that. And I heard you talking about Convoy there just before I came on the 19th again. They have a fun day out there at the Arsenal grounds from 12 to 3 o'clock. So we'd hope the weather will be, it looks like it's going to be a bit more favourable anyway.
We shall see. Right, I mean, obviously, you want to talk a little bit about our coastal communities. It came to the fore recently with major drug fines, significant quantities of cocaine washed up on our shores. But also we hear of crab pots, lobster pots, motorboat engines, boat engines, all that type of stuff. Still quite a bit of activity in that regard. So you have some general advice and observations.
Yeah, look, that incident really brought to the fore. We always thought, or we would have probably known differently, but the perception would have been the southwest coast of Ireland, Kerry and Cork and down Clare, down along there. But we've had it, you know, brought very much to our attention locally, and we're just appealing to residents in coastal communities and in the islands to be alert for what we would say unusual activities, and people in them communities know best what craft's moving around, who's moving around, what are these guys like, are they competent and capable of with handling maritime craft and all of that, and these can be the red flags there. The summer season we normally have a notable increase in activity in Donegal and down the west, but that can be used to mask criminal activity, and we've seen that. So,
what do you? Is it a fair question to ask? What do you believe happened with those drugs? Do you think they were discarded a long way away? Do you have and I'm not necessarily saying what's the Garda view, but your view. Would your suspicion be that they were to be intercepted by a smaller vessel and missed them, or they could have been in the water for months? We don't know. Do you what would you suspect happened there?
I don't know personally. I don't know that much about it because I was off on leave. No more than what I read in the papers with everybody else. But you know, it seemed to be very well wrapped and packaged. There's possibly more of it about, maybe stuck in crevices or whatever, or maybe picked up by people. We don't know. It possibly happened in a transfer from a larger boat to a smaller boat. There was a boat that the guards impounded, and it was in Maharorty. And I think even talking anecdotally to people down there, it was noted that these people that were using that boat weren't that seafaring hadn't great
Didn't have the sea
capabilities.
legs necessarily.
Yeah, and they were probably lucky that something worse didn't happen with their lives and all of that sort of thing. So look, there's craft moving around all the time. If you look at marine traffic on any given day, there's a lot of yachts, there's a lot of everything. So, you know, it's basically the community are our eyes and ears. We want to work with them, and what we're basically saying is people mightn't be that comfortable talking in face-to-face to somebody about it. The local district headquarters, as you know, are open on a 24/7 basis, but we have the confidential line, which is 1800 666 111, and Revenue have their Customs Drug Watch confidential line on 1800 295 295. So there are two avenues that are open to somebody, even if you're not too sure that you're just operating on a hunch. You know, you should do something about it, because they are our communities, and these criminally minded people will take over. And we see the prevalence of cocaine use and cannabis use and all of that. We're seeing it on the roads now, very much every week once you look through. So, and the other, sorry,
go ahead. No, I think you were going to talk about the same thing too, but we just have to move along a little bit. People with their outboard motors and what have you, there is an opportunity to get that stuff marked.
That type of theft spikes, as you said, lobster pots, outboard engines on lakes and both in the coastal communities. Every summer it goes up, straight up and down, and there's obviously a market for them. But the County Council with the Joint Policing Committee have bought 2 TELUS machines, the guts of 6 or 7 grand investment there, and they are available to coastal communities if they get together, talk to their local community guards or their local guards. They will come and do. In fact, we were going to do a marking session in Dunlow at the waterfront day that was cancelled due to the weather, but that's there, and if property's marked, it's less attractive to the thief, no more than
and easier to get back, because a lot of stuff is recovered.
There is a lot of stuff recovered.
It's getting it back to the rightful owners. Speaking of getting things back to the rightful owners, dogs particularly going missing. Well, I
suppose it's the light-hearted part of the whole thing with property marking and all that, but we all note that there's been, you see, Grania puts it up on the Facebook page there. There's dogs in custody in different guard stations around the county. They're part of a family unit, and when they go missing, it causes great anxiety. And I was just thinking about this, and I know a dog went missing there lately, and the dog had its name and its tag. Now, some people say don't put the name on if somebody wants to steal it and can call and da-da-da. But you could put on your phone number or even your family name and air code, and it would make it
it's
much more instantaneous.
Exactly.
And in fact, I seen a dog down in Burton Port last week was knocked down, and it had a tag, and within literally 2 minutes we knew who the owner was, and he was able to come and take the dog to the vet, and thankfully the dog recovered.
So engrave your air code, your family name, a contact number,
something to think about.
Attach it to your dog and cats.
Yeah, and it lays a cat too,
of course, yeah. I'm not a big fan of cats, but
they wear collars as well.
Of course they do. Now, we still don't know what the story with e-scooters is. I mean, we do and we don't.
Well, Gran, you mentioned this to me, and I wasn't really following the debate. You probably maybe need to tell me more about it, but there seems to be a big grey area about the e-scooters, and seemingly this Road Traffic and Roads Act 2023 has just been enacted, and what they're doing is they're going to categorise these as a personal powered transporter. It's like something you'd see in Star Wars, a PPT. They're not legal for use on public roads at the minute. Regulations will clarify them, saying the power, the speed, the weight ratios.
I think it's going to be under 25 kilometres per hour or a certain output. They won't need to be registered over it. Now, it's yet to be fully decided. Over it, they might. So that has not been enacted or decided yet. No. But what is the situation in using them now? Is it illegal? Because we see them everywhere. Is it illegal on both the footpath and the road at the moment to ride an e-scooter?
Well, the common sense should prevail. It's illegal to ride a bicycle on a footpath.
It's not, though.
Do you think
it's not?
All right.
It isn't. It's not actually illegal in and of itself. I'm not disputing.
Well, I was going to say footpath is the clue is in the name.
Yes, not
right.
Not a tyre path.
It's not a tyre path. It's not a bike path. You have cycleways that are jointly used by people and bicycles and classified for that use. So you thought you got me there. But
well, I am going to get my phone out and Google it. Sergeant, 38 years in the job.
I'm not going
38 years in the job, and it takes an upstart like me.
The Bush Telegraph's going well, isn't it? Don't they look well? That's Daniel O'Donnell, let's say.
but
I don't look a day over 38. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. 38 years in the job,
God,
not years on the
if I had to think on this day 38 years ago that I'd be sitting here.
I know.
With you.
I know.
Such a star.
Get out of it. Come here. So as you say, common sense prevails.
No, like it's going to be cleared up by the end of the year. Yeah. I suppose we're in a limbo exactly. At the minute, and there's no point in me being Paul Lagarde saying this is illegal and that's illegal. At the end of the day, common courtesy, if somebody's walking, if you say, if the statute book of Greg Hughes on Highland Radio says, I'll not argue against it.
Now, come here. So, as I say, that'll all be cleared and common sense. And finally, and very importantly, if you don't mind, unfortunately, we are seeing awful devastation on our roads. One death is one too many, but we are seeing way more than that. Up until the 14th of August, 24 pedestrians, 41... Are these road deaths? Yes, 41 drivers, 2 e-scooters, 15 motorcyclists, a cyclist and a pillion passenger make up a total loss of life of 105.
5 people that aren't with us anymore.
And just the devastation that...
We've seen it in Donegal, you know.
Yeah. So, I mean... we have to go back to the basics.
Yeah, and I was looking through, and I know I haven't done any appeals not that today. Look, there was nothing really jumping out, but what it was jumping out at me was particularly drug driving. There was a number of accidents around the county in the last week, and when the people were tested, they were over the limits on cannabis and cocaine. They were the two things. And I suppose, I'm not saying this blasé, you'll always have your drink drivers as a result of accidents, but this number with the drug drivers are coming up there, and it's no more than with the fatalities. When you see e-scooters, there was 2 fatalities off one of them, so it shows the danger of them as well. So you have like the comparison for August to date is we're plus 12, plus 12 people over August 22, and that's just terrible news, to be honest. And then 23 of the people who lost their lives were in the age group between 16 and 25, and that's 1 in 4. And then the motorcyclists, 15, compared to 41 drivers. So, the stats are there, and the roads are dangerous.
How concerned are you about the feature of particularly cocaine now in our communities?
Very. It's everywhere. There's an acceptance around it too, which is even worse, and I heard Martin Harley on with you yesterday, I think he said he spoke to a guard years ago in Balbafay, and like Martin's chairman of the Vintners and all that, and he said, if somebody comes home with drink taken, you'll nearly be glad of it. And see, the cocaine is, if you read the evidence, it enhances people. They think they can do things they can't, particularly then when they get behind the wheel of a car or any motorised vehicle, where it can be a motorbike as well, and it's just the prevalence of it and the amount of it's about. And talk to anybody in any town or village and they'll tell you, there's no point in saying it's not anywhere. It's everywhere.
Yeah,
it's everywhere in this county, and it's very worrying. And it's worrying, even if they get away with the road traffic part of it, it's the mental health parts then, and you can see that. We see it then with calls to domestics, where people are literally off their heads, and the children are suffering, the spouses or partners are suffering, and all of that sort of thing. So you just wonder where it'll end or what, or is it going to reach, when you look at, I was watching that film last night, Painkiller, I don't know, the OxyContin thing.
Yep.
And it would straighten you up in your seat now.
Yeah,
I
know indeed.
And when you see, so
it is a worry. It really is. Okay, got a Sergeant Paul Wallace. Congratulations. Is it congratulations? 38 years.
Commiserations.
38 years in the force.
There'll not be much more of it.
It's quite the milestone. Will you get to 40?
No, I can't get to 40.
Can you not?
No, I can't, because I went to college before I joined. A lot of people joined 18, 19. I was past my 21st.
There you go.
I was at the regional college here doing electronics.
Maybe they'll make an exception.
And well, you can get extensions now because of the recruitment crisis and all of that. I think they're handing them out, particularly to guard sergeants and inspectors, nothing to the higher ranks, really, for whatever that's all about. No, I'm working since I was 14.
Yeah, same as. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Garda Sergeant Paul Wallace, thank you very much indeed. Okay, that was Community Garda information for this week. We're back with it on this programme after the 10 o'clock news next Tuesday.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
Psst, hey, come here to me. I defended the rebels in the Rising. Still a bullet in me bricks.
Hi, did you know my stones are home to wrens, butterflies, even native lizards?
Well, Sham, I've been a canvas, shelter, goalpost, meeting point, stage.
If these walls could talk, they'd never stop. National Heritage Week, August 12th to 20th. Visit heritageweek.ie. National Heritage Week is a programme of the Heritage Council, supported by the Local Authorities Heritage Officer Network and the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage.
Your specialty is quality tiles, bathroom suites and wooden floors. Who has the best range of tiles in Donegal?
Crawford Tiles.
The best wood flooring?
Crawford Tiles.
The best bathroom suites?
Crawford Tiles.
5-day bathroom refits?
Crawford Tiles.
And who's been tampering with my questions?
That'd be me.
Crawford Tiles, Castlefin. That'd be them. 07491 43942.
See the smash hit film come to life. Dirty Dancing returns to Derry's Millennium Forum 19th to 23rd of September. Exploding with heart-pounding music, breathtaking emotion and sensationally sexy dancing. Featuring hit songs Hungry Eyes, Hey Baby and The Time of My Life. Tickets from millenniumforum.co.uk.
Do you have your ticket yet?
€2,500 every Friday.
Plus a chance to win big.
10,000 cash money.
Get your ticket today.
Go to highlandradio.com. Summer's just got better.
Ooh.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why. The Euro Millions jackpot is an estimated €50 million. Play responsibly in-store, in-app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
The world awaits you. Make that dream your next adventure. Cruise the Caribbean. Sail from Crete to Corsica. Soak in Santorini sunsets. Dine on the shores of the Indian Ocean. Stroll through cobbled streets for hidden gems, or bring the little ones to a magical wonderland. Trust the award-winning Atlantic Travel to guide your next adventure. Step through our doorway to the world. Atlantic Travel, Letterkenny.
Charles Bunner & Sons Ballybuffet are the leading suppliers of solid fuel and wood pellet stoves and ranges, bringing warmth and comfort to homes in Donegal and beyond for nearly 50 years. So visit our showrooms in Ballybuffet or call us on 074 9131 700 or online at thestovestore.ie for more details.
Getting married. Men's wedding suit packages are now 20% off. Book before August 31st. Evolve Clothing. Letterkenny Retail Park. Terms and conditions apply.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio. We're joined on the programme now by Aidan McFadden, who is seeking your help in trying to find his dogs. Hi, Aidan. How are you getting on?
Not so bad, Greg. Yourself?
I'm doing okay, but you're not. Your family's not. You've lost two of your dogs. Tell us about the dogs and what happened.
It was just a normal day, you know. We let the dogs out at about 8:30 in the morning, and we give them some food there about 9 o'clock or so. And my mother there, she went into the house. She was looking after them, and she went into the house there and for breakfast. And she came back out, and maybe about half an hour later, after she had her breakfast and her tea and that, and she came back out. The two dogs were gone. Another wee dog was still at the house.
Mm-hmm. Now, they are, and we're showing a picture for those watching on our social media. We'll put it up on our website as well. They're very striking dogs, aren't they? They're two beautiful animals. Describe them to us.
They're two lovely animals. One has a wee bit of white down the middle of his forehead, and the other has more like a black kind of face in it. You know, they're two fawn animals. Like they're both lovely pets. You know, that kind of way, and they're nice and calm and playful. You know, typical boxer nature. You know. I'm just devastated. You know, and the whole family's devastated. It's like losing a family member, that kind of way. Like,
when did they disappear? Sorry, you said they were put out. When was that?
They disappeared roughly around 9:30 yesterday morning.
Yesterday morning, okay. Now, is it possible they hopped the fence or ran out through a gap in the fence or something and ran off, or are you convinced they were taken?
I'm leaning towards more that they were taken. You know, I've been asking all the local farmers around me. You know, I've been round asking them to walk around their fields. You know, and they're saying yes, walk, and you know that they would take a look as well. You know, that kind of way. And like I've been driving around the roads all yesterday looking for them, and they're, you know, I can't see a sign of them anywhere. Like my mother there, the dogs went missing then about 9:30, and my grandfather, and he went up the road driving looking for them, and not a sign nowhere to be seen. Like, you know, like if they were lost, that kind of way, like they never left before, but if they were lost, they would, you know, someone would have seen them, that sort of thing.
Exactly. At this point, over 24 hours on, they are so distinctive. Someone would have heard or seen the appeal, and you would have had some information, I think, if they were in the locality at this point.
Yeah, like you know, and like I've shared on Facebook. All business pages have it up. Local councillors are working on it with me here too. I have guards contacted. I have the microchips alerted, saying that if they were scanned in anywhere, they'll flash up saying that the dogs were stolen or lost. Like I'm just, you know, and there's a cash reward there going too for anyone that has any know-abouts or whereabouts the dogs, or if they can return them safe to the house, it would be great.
Yeah, because I mean, look, they look purebred, highly valuable dogs as well. But you know, you hear a lot of suspicion about dogs being stolen. You don't actually hear about genuine cases too often, if you get where I'm coming from, Aidan. Do you know, a lot of people be concerned about a car slowed down by the dog, and you see, but it's not often you actually sort of hear of a dog, or particularly two dogs, actually being stolen. It does seem to be rare enough, unless I'm very much mistaken.
Well, see, that's just kind of the worrying thing about it. Like, you know, like if one dog was still standing there, you'd be thinking, you know, one went off missing. But when the two dogs was gone and no one had seen a trace of them this long time, like, you know, it's very concerning, you know. That's just, you know, a bit of a shock, you know.
Yeah, okay. So they're missing from the Creasla area since yesterday morning. Ruby and Lexi, they're quite quiet. They are quiet dogs. They're boxers, very distinctive looking. They look just like boxers, obviously. One of them has a bit of white. Where did you say?
White down the middle of its face. Yeah. And the other was just more of a black face, and like they're used to wains and stuff, you know, knocking about the family home there, and they're you know, they're very kind-natured dogs, like.
Okay, well, listen, and they're very valued members of the family as well, and everyone keen to get them back. All right, Aidan, listen, it's out there. We'll see if anyone can come up with that. I'm thinking too, you know, maybe if someone works in a garage or a petrol station or a restaurant or something, and saw two dogs like this in the back of a car, or heard barking out of a dog trailer or something along those lines, you know what I mean? Maybe that could be the key to coming up with a solution to this. But we hope it's resolved as soon as possible, and we'll share it out, of course, Aidan, and we hope you get Ruby and Lexi back safe and sound as soon as possible.
That's perfect. Thanks very much, Greg.
All right, take care. That's Aidan McFadden there, calling us out of Creasla. So if you know any information, get in touch with us. We'll pass it on, or contact the guards directly, or what have you. Okay, so there are currently 13 positions in primary schools unfilled by teachers. In post-primary, it's 5. It's not insignificant, but it's certainly not along the lines of what they're experiencing in Dublin. 329 vacant posts in primary, 199 in Dublin. Pádraig Curley is the Donegal and Sligo representative of the Association of Secondary School Teachers in Ireland. Pádraig, this is a concern so close to the start of the new year. What is the impact on schools with so many vacancies in teaching posts?
Hello, Greg. How are you doing? Good morning. Nice to talk to you. Look, this retention and recruitment crisis has been going on now for quite a while. I think the immediate effect that you're going to have in schools is basically that there'll be students that will be in simply being supervised rather than being taught, because there's the actual specialist teacher is just unavailable. They can't be got.
I mean, that's really significant impact on a child's education, obviously.
It is, yeah. And I mean, what management are trying their absolute best to do is try to fill those roles. But inevitably, if the position cannot be got, the school will inevitably have to withdraw that subject. So it can lead in some cases then to a lack of choice among subjects. So very, very, you could get an example where, for example, chemistry would be taken off the timetable, or we'd say different subjects taken off the timetable, or even an effect on the special needs education where they take teachers out of that role and put them back into mainstream because they simply can't get the teachers to fill the jobs.
Now, we didn't wake up this morning with this problem. It's been gathering pace for many, many years now, and we know exactly the reasons why. There obviously is the paying conditions, but then, of course, there is the cost of rental or property ownership, particularly in the capital and other urban areas. And then there is that carrot being dangled from abroad. All of these problems are ever present, or we saw them coming down the line a long time ago. Has anything been done, in your view, to sort of, by the powers that be, the Department of Education, etc., to sort of say, right, we need to stem the loss, or we need to employ these measures to try and attract people to either stay in the job or stay in the country?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, the ASDI is a stakeholder in a Department of Education group that was set up called the Teacher Supply Working Group. And a little bit to our dismay in the ASDI, this involved basically junkets and things where they tried to encourage all these people that the Irish taxpayer has paid to educate and train throughout all the years. The thing was to try and get these people back from Dubai and UAE and Australia and stuff like that. And it's failed. And our General Secretary, Kieran Christie, is calling out this. He says, people, it's pretty proven now that offering people part-time or fixed-time positions is not going to tempt them to come back from a job abroad where they're getting actually very good pay, in some cases accommodation, flights 2 or 3 times a year, and prospects. You know, the casualisation has been a huge issue here.
Right, so say I was a teacher in Dubai, right, and I see all of these jobs vacancies, and I have the qualifications. Can I not come back and pretty much instantly be guaranteed a full-time teaching post?
Absolutely not.
Why?
You'll be getting a part-time or fixed-time position, because what that does basically is leaves flexibility to the school where they can chop and change what position they want to fill. So you have teachers now, younger teachers, that are 6-7 years in the job and they're still going from one school to the next. But that they're not getting
Padraig, pardon my ignorance. Why is that a case? If you've got vacancies that you can't fill, and you've got teachers potentially that might come back with some employment certainty and some respect, why would you put a barrier to that? I mean, that is shooting yourself in the foot.
Well, there's a lot of things in that, because if you keep staff generally on the short-term positions or part-time, what you have is a lot of control over that staff. You have a lot of control over whether you can move it, say, from one subject, from Spanish, say now the next year you want a French one, you can chop and change and they will be moved around different schools. That's become a huge issue in the teaching profession in the last, I would say, 10 years, where people that just simply aren't getting the full-time, don't have the hours, so they move them around to this thing. Now, undoubtedly, there will be a few. That's not the total case, but for the most part, a lot of the positions have been part-time or fixed-term positions, and they're saying they just don't have the hours to give them yet. And if you take in, like the ASTI has put forward the position where this thing has to be looked at. So obviously now, the same as an awful lot of professions, the housing crisis is a real one. You mentioned that, where people are heading off out. But the other thing that the ASTI has been concerned about basically is the cost of the teacher education and the actual length of it.
5 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you look at it, I was talking to one of my ex-pupils the last time, and they said they were at different jobs, and they were in Templemore doing the guards and stuff, and it was basically 8-9 months, and I said, right, talking to the guy outside, nice guy, and they were trained, and obviously they would get ongoing training on the job. But if you look at a teaching profession, 5 years. And the average cost to the parent or to that person, with accommodation expenses and the whole lot, is in the region of 13,000 to 15,000 a year. That's a lot of money before you're even trained.
Potter, do you think to some extent too, and I'm going to throw nurses in here, if you don't mind, and midwives, that I think those groups and teachers are still treated like as if that work is a devotion? That, in other words, you know what I mean? I don't know how you would actually clarify it or define it or whatever, but the way they're treated, it's as if, you know, we will facilitate you fulfilling your dream and your calling, rather than, I mean, let's not forget, before a lot of these teachers are even finished their studies, the people are over from the UAE and elsewhere saying, come over here, we'll love you, we'll give you this, we'll give you that. And what are we doing? We're saying, well, you know what, 5 years at it, you must be really dedicated. It's 7 years for the priesthood. Come on, stay here in Ireland. We're not competing.
It's like a vocation is the word you're looking for. Oh, it's a calling. And you see, I mean, if you get a job, if you go and get trained, and the sooner you're into the workplace, you're starting to pay back those fees. But the extraordinary thing in the teaching profession is, after this 5 years, you then have a Drogheda induction when you start teaching, and after 5 to 6 years actually teaching, you're still viewed as a very, very junior teacher in the school.
And you're in your late 20s then at that point, really, effectively, aren't you, Balshaw?
Well, basically, I see that most of the teachers now, they're well in their 30s. They're not on any, they don't own any property. They don't own pretty much anything. They can still have a short-term contract. So people are voting with their feet. They're saying, listen, if I do 5 years in a third level, I'll be going for some other sort of a profession. So if we looked at this, I mean, it said, this is a statement, it's astonishing that the minister was seeking to lure teachers to return from other countries this summer on the promise of part-time or fixed-time positions. This must change where, subject to satisfactory probation, permanent appointments are made available, and shortening of the extraordinary long teachers' pay scale, and doubling the number of middle management posts in schools. That's another thing too. There is very, very little promotion in the teaching profession.
There are people in Donegal, and not conflating issues, but there are people in Donegal that would have seen when the campaign was on for a proper redress scheme for defective concrete, the battle for the public's minds. In other words, the taxpayer can't foot the bill for this. It's absolutely, you know what I mean? And it was done, and it was, I mean, it was, you can see the tactic, but I thought it was a dirty tactic. I just wonder too sometimes if people rely on the general view that seems to be there in the population, or does pop its head up, that teaching is handy, you get loads of paid holidays and such, and therefore I just think sometimes that's used by the powers that be as some sort of a shield. Do you know what I mean? The battle for the public's minds, that they can get away with maybe not doing what possibly should be done for teachers. Again, I hope that doesn't sound like a conspiracy theory, but sometimes in the absence of something obvious, you kind of have to say, well, if it's not that, it must be this.
I've come across that attitude, you know, an awful lot, and look at it, it's tongue-in-cheek and a bit of banter. But generally, you'll always find that there'll be sympathy for the nurses, and quite the opposite for teachers. Now, I suppose you don't want to be seen as whinging and complaining all the time. But I think, from my point of view, I would like to leave the profession in a healthy state, that younger people would feel that it's a good career path, it's a good job, there'd be well-educated, motivated people going into teaching. Because if you look at the alternatives, then you look at other countries where there's a very low morale among the teachers. The education profession very soon goes to the wall, and then you end up with any parents in that position thinking, oh my God, I won't go for public school. I'll actually pay for my son or daughter to go to private school because they'll get it'll be education there, whereas it's more or less, how counting the numbers in public systems.
And
That's
it's not
another
just now.
jurisdiction.
It's not just now too either. I mean, the ramifications of this are felt for people with special needs, for those with not, in terms of outcomes, in terms of progression to third level. Then chuck in the whole situation with AI and how that's going to influence things. I mean, we really don't know what we'll be outputting in terms of students in 5, 10, 15 years' time. But with all of these challenges, we could lose a competitive edge really, really quickly. I think it's imperative the government, whichever government is this one or the next or the one after that, really see the importance of all of this. Pádraig, thank you very much for your time. I really do appreciate it. Pádraig Curley, Donegal and Sligo rep of the ASTI.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
2 for 1 at top attractions with Donegal Creameries and Connacht Gold Milk. Simply collect 30 tokens from special packs of Donegal Creameries and Connacht Gold Milk and receive 5 2 for 1 vouchers for over 120 top attractions nationwide, including golf and beauty. There's something for everyone. Start collecting tokens today.
Don't know if you know Alice and Pat. Late 40s, couple of kids, been together 17 years. Never married, of course, but that's not a problem. Until something happens, and suddenly words like unmarried, inheritance, and substantial tax bill enter the equation. You never need proper estate planning. Until you do. That's why the experienced team at McElhenney & Associates are here to help. Find us online or call 074 917 5989. McElhenney & Associates Solicitors, Stranola.
Andre Rio's annual feel-good event is back in Century Cinemas this summer. On the 26th and 27th of August, the King of the Waltz presents Love is All Around, a brand new concert filled with uplifting music, spectacular performances and romantic waltzes. Book your tickets now at centurycinemas.ie.
Join us on August 19th from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. at Uncraving Community Centre, Termon, for a community engagement event. Open to all, discover valuable financial insights, energy-saving tips and expert advice on retrofitting your home. Learn about solar, renewable energy and how to avail of SEAI grants. Uncraving Community Centre, Termon. Mark your calendar and be part of this informative event.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
Okay, it's 11 o'clock, time to get a news update, and we say good morning once again to Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. Gardaí are appealing to Donegal's coastal and island communities to be on alert for unusual activities. They say there is real evidence that the coast is being used for drug importation. €4 million worth of cocaine washed up on 2 beaches in Donegal last month. Father John Joe Duffy says while a tsunami hit Creeslaw on October the 7th last year, the community was lifted by a tidal wave of support. He was speaking as he led the National Novena at Knock Basilica last evening. An explosion at a shop in the village last year claimed the lives of 10 people, with Father Duffy describing the initial scene as one of tremendous shock, horror and disbelief. Relatives of the victims of the Omagh bombing will lay flowers at the site of the blast in the town this afternoon. Today marks 25 years since a £500 car bomb detonated in the town centre, killing 29 people and unborn twins. A Donegal man believes his dogs were stolen from his home in Creeslaw. The 2 boxer dogs, Ruby and Lexi, were last seen yesterday morning. A cash reward has been offered for anyone who has any information. There are calls for the re-establishment of the Northern Ireland Executive and Stormont Assembly following developments of a leaked PSNI document. Last week, a document containing the names of all serving PSNI officers was leaked in error, with the force believing it has found its way into the hands of dissident Republicans. A redacted version of the document was placed on a wall in West Belfast overnight on Sunday. There's been a 38% increase in accommodation fraud. Gardaí and Donegal are continuing to warn students to be vigilant when on the hunt for accommodation ahead of the new term. Around €2 million has been lost in accommodation fraud over the past 5 years. And a woman remains in hospital following an incident involving a cyclist and a pedestrian in Derry last night. It's unclear what the incident, which occurred at around 9:40 p.m, involves. Police say access to the area was restricted as police and ambulance service attended the scene on Belt Road in the Waterside area. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update again at 12 noon.
Michaela, thank you very much indeed.
Whether it's a 5 or 10k, half or full marathon, everyone's running journey is different. Find your pace with the Summer of Running series with Irish Life Dublin Marathon. Search Irish Life Summer of Running series to sign up. A better life with Irish Life.
All right, welcome back to the show. Now, you might, if you're in a certain service provider, be inclined to offer a tip, seeing quite broadly in different parts of the world. But what you might have noticed, which is a little bit different here, is that websites at times are now asking customers to show support by adding a tip to their purchase. Is this something you've come across? What do you think about it? Let us know. Well, Sharon Earl-Lawler is Managing Director of Think Plan Do Consulting. Good morning to you, Sharon. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Greg. How are you? Lovely to be here.
I'm doing good. Yeah, I mean, listen, if you go into a restaurant or something and you get a good service, you might leave a tip, but it would seem unusual to offer a tip in advance of receiving a service or indeed a product. So what are we seeing more and more of now?
Yeah, I mean, look, first of all, what I'm going to say on this is I think that the sequence of something like this is all wrong. Because the consumer and the shopper is very used to having a particular sequence. So you ask for a service, you receive that service, and if that service is good, you will, very happily reward that service, with some sort of a gratuity. But when you're being asked to actually pay that gratuity in advance of receiving the service, how do you know if the service is going to be good, if that service is going to be bad? So it's very much in the wrong sequence in the customer journey. And I don't think the shoppers are going to be very happy with having to make that advanced decision. For me, as a shopper strategist, I think it's the wrong strategy to take.
And the thing is they're taking that decision with evidence that people don't like it, because for how long has there been a pushback on a service charge, which in effect, I think, is really a tip in advance. Do you know what I mean? Before you've had your... So we know the public don't like that. And in fact, we've seen in recent years a move away from that. So for people to be stepping into this space, in the digital space, really seems quite bizarre and out of touch.
Yeah, I mean... as I said, I'm all for, and I think that technology allows people to digitally give that provision of a gratuity much easier in that physical environment. But when you start to get into the space, in an online space, of asking somebody, if I'm purchasing something, even if I'm purchasing a service, I'm going to a beautician or the hairdressers, I want to know what I'm getting before I decide on the level of that gratuity. So I actually think it's quite dangerous from the perspective of, I think, ultimately the person providing the service, the staff, lose out, because you can't in that instance reward good behavior and great service. And you're forcing the customer, the shopper, to actually make that decision. And quite often they're going to default down in that regard when they haven't actually received it.
Can you at least understand the logic as to why some businesses might do this?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're probably trying to cover costs, and they're trying to make sure that for those of us who may not, or those people out there who may not want to provide a gratuity and provide a good gratuity. But from my perspective, I mean, there was an article in the Times on Sunday, and the examples in that particular article by Julianne Corr in the Sunday Times were for products that they were looking for a tip on, as an advanced tip on, a gratuity on, as opposed to for services. So these were things like, I think there was one clothes boutique, there was a pet shop. And in that instance, you're asking for a tip or a gratuity for a product being handed over as opposed to for a service being given. I'm 100% of the belief that if you go into, beauticians or hairdressers, if you go into a restaurant, you sit down and you're provided with a really good service. then you should be given the opportunity, and the staff should be given the opportunity that if they prove that good service, that they can actually benefit from that. But the idea of actually handing over a 10, 5, 10, 20% in some instance gratuity for a product in advance, not even post having, but in advance of having received it, I think you're covering a certain element of cost in the wrong way, in my view, as a shopper strategist.
Yeah, I haven't seen, to be honest with you, how it's proposed. But I mean, firstly, it would say to me is, well, why do you not have faith in your product that you can charge enough to make a profit and sell it? Secondly, like, it feels a wee bit like grifting, you know. I mean, surely me saying to my friends, shop here, it's great, or leaving a 5-star review is the real tip. Like, I can't see how it can be proposition to the public where they understand and go, oh yes, right, okay. It screams to me desperation, bad business, grifting.
100%. And the other thing I would say is that it adds an unnecessary step in that purchase process. So we all know from a retailer perspective, you want to move the customer along their purchase journey and move them from browser to buyer as quickly as you can. And if you start adding another step in that process, and in that instance, what they're actually asking in some instances, will you tick for 5%, 10%, 15%, or you then have to choose none, and none tends to be the fourth option in that. I think it adds an unnecessary step into that purchase process, and it makes the shopper feel uncomfortable quite early on, really, when you have to make that decision. And as I said, it's one thing when you're making a decision in a service retail industry or sector where, you know, you've been given a really, really good service, but for an online purchase where you don't know as you do that whether it's going to arrive on time or in advance, or what state it's going to arrive in when it comes there, I think it's a very nervous. It's something I wouldn't be happy, and I certainly wouldn't be advising any businesses that work with me to engage in.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily individual companies that are coming up with this. Shopify, which facilitates a lot of this online shopping, they've made this service available. So are there some markets outside of Ireland where this is kind of the norm or seen okay? Because I presume Shopify wouldn't go down this route if they would see it affecting their bottom line down the line eventually.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you look at how it's set up, I mean, there's lots of ways that when you work through the capability of a facility like that it can be put to very good use. So, for example, if you're a business that supports a charity and you're setting up that as somebody is buying, making a purchase, that they can, add a nominal donation to a particular charity. There are many of us out there who will do that, and if you, even in physical terms, if you walk into the likes of, McDonald's, as you're, buying your Big Mac or doing your order, you'll see something at the bottom to say, would you like to make a donation to our Ronald McDonald charity? And many of us in those instances will say yes, and it's fairly nominal. So I think there are times and instances where something like this could be put to good use, but the instance from a service perspective where you're asking somebody to pay that, that specific amount in advance of having, received the goods or the service itself, I think it's a dangerous road to go on, particularly in current economic climate.
Yeah, and again, the public will see through it because in some cases, the company is a middle person that may never even handle the product, so they're looking for a tip to maintain them rerouting a product to you. I don't think it's going to. Yeah, I don't think it's going to catch on though, Sharon. It's not going to work in this market.
I don't. I wouldn't see very many businesses taking that on, and I think, particularly as I said, in the current climate where you are trying to keep yourself as competitive and as interesting to the shopper as possible, I think that becomes a point in that purchase journey where there's a pressure put on the customer, and I think we don't like that type of pressure. People's response to that type of pressure is to potentially just back off in that purchase process. So you run the risk of somebody actually exiting their basket at that point and saying, do you know what, I don't feel comfortable with it.
And I'm sure, Sharon, in your experience, you might deal with a company and you talk to them about, look, it's okay, if you're going to charge a little bit extra, tell the story of your company, get people to invest in it, get people to even, if they can get the product a little bit cheaper elsewhere, to understand it, tell your story, bring them with you on the journey. It requires more effort, but if your margins are too tight, you could try that route before you get the begging bowl out.
I mean, believe you me, I look at retail trends all the time. And one of the most important things that I say to businesses is to storytell your story. So whether it's, your investment in the staff that you have, whether it's the products that you're selling and there's a story behind those, any good retailer will storytell. I was in London last week doing some safari reconnaissance, and all you could see was that element of storytelling right throughout that process within stores. And I'd say to any business, do that. But when it comes to something like this, it's the wrong type of storytelling. And I think, as you said earlier on, it actually says a lot in a negative way about a business as opposed to a positive way. So definitely a no-no for me.
Yeah, and we see some big companies that do exactly what you've talked of, and we don't really necessarily, like Ben & Jerry's for an example. How did they make such a name for themselves in such a competitive ice cream market? They took a stand and they took their customers along on a journey with them, and it happens all the while. Sharon, thank you so much for your time this morning, and hopefully the right ears have heard it, because I think we're all in agreement, and consumers out there as well. Thank you. Lovely to see you and chat to you. Take care. Bye-bye. Sharon Lawler. So if you're on a shop, there's one company, say for instance Spirit Clothing. It's a fashion retailer in Longford, and there's another pet store headquartered in Ireland. Both use Shopify, and they are inviting, and they're amongst others, for you to just tip in advance for their service. I don't know anyone would do that, do I? Maybe I don't, or maybe I do. I don't know. But anyway, I just don't think that's going to work in our little landmass, our little blip on the earth. A caller says, I'm a nurse and all I hear is the amount of teachers we're short of, but we go to work every day with an even bigger shortage of experienced and qualified staff. Regardless of the shortage, we have to carry on. Teachers can make €10,000 extra in the summer by correcting papers. Teachers train while in school. As a nurse, I study on my day off. I have to work hours after my shift finishes, yet a teacher is out the door at finishing time. They believe it is very unbalanced. Now, it's very possible that a teacher might see it as a different way. That summer work sometimes can push a teacher over the threshold for a Susie grant, for an example, and they don't take that work for those reasons. For some it suits, for others it doesn't. A caller says that the footpaths in Letterkenny are a death trap, with people cycling bikes and e-scooters, but there's not a guard in sight to enforce these laws. When are we going to start seeing consequences for these people? You see, I am going to check it during this ad break. I was under the impression it's not actually illegal to cycle on footpaths. And in fact, I don't think I invented this knowledge. I believe it actually came up at a recent council meeting, and that's where I have it. See, I store little bits of information as they come along, but I don't always know where I get them. And as I was speaking there, I seem to recall that it was a local councillor that raised the issue at one of these joint policing committee meetings where that was outlined. All right, okay. Footpaths are for pedestrians and not for vehicles of any description. Should that be a bike or a scooter? A little law enforcement is needed, especially for the protection of the elderly on footpaths. Another, why is there a driving limit for drugs? It should be zero tolerance. There is no safe limit. I don't believe there is a limit for drive. I think if drugs are detected in your system, that's it. There is no, as far as that's the first I've ever heard of that. Maybe that was said in passing. I don't believe there's a limit. If you've got drugs in your system, it's illegal. You can't be driving. There's no limit. But let me double check that, because now you've got me doubting myself. Let me see. Hi, Greg. Why don't insurance companies make it compulsory to have a dash cam installed in your vehicle? Surely it would be a massive help in solving claims. Yeah, I can see the logic. I've never had a dash cam. Greg, can you ask the Garda about lane closures and the 4-lane project? Can the contractor close a lane any time, i.e. 6:15 yesterday evening, inbound lane, several Fridays in the past week at 12 noon, causing huge delays? Daniel, I believe that they have a window in which they can do pretty much what they wish within that, as set out in the contract. I attended Father Sean Doherty's Mass in the cathedral last night. It was a wonderful experience, and I wish Father Sean blessings.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio. The 9 till Noon Show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
Join us at Conley's Volkswagen Letterkenny for our demo and ex-management vehicle sales event, taking place between the 14th and the 21st of August. Discover amazing offers on our Taigo, T-Roc and fully electric ID range, with stock available for immediate immediate delivery, offering a blend of discounts, low interest financing and exclusive trade-in bonuses. We are also hosting an open evening in our dealership on Canal Road, Letterkenny, Thursday the 17th from 5 to 8 p.m. So pop in, speak to a member of our friendly team and test drive our Volkswagen demo range. Call us today on 07491 22333 or see conleys.ie.
Do your little ones have jam-packed schedules? Kit them out at Dunnes Stores with a uniform that can keep up. Get joggers that will survive PE on the muddy pitches from just €5, and sweatshirts that will breeze through messy art projects from just €3.75. Pick up a comfy knitted school jumper from just €3.75 and a 3-pack of playproof polos from just €5. Back to school at Dunnes Stores for little ones with big schedules. Shop in-store and online now. Terms and conditions apply.
It's the Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring 70% off sale. Get up to 70% off on all your purchases. Up to 70% off all tiles, all wood flooring, all bathware. Everything's reduced in-store. The 70% off sale at Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring. Stores nationwide. Sale now on.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
It is 18 minutes past 11. We welcome onto the programme now James Morrissey, who is author of Reel to Reel, Garrett Brown and Claddagh Records. Good morning to you, James. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Craig.
Okay, so tell us about Mr. Brown and Claddagh Records for those who may not, the few that may not be aware.
Garrett Brown was the son of Lady Una Guinness, who was one of the Golden Guinness girls, one of the direct descendants of Arthur Guinness. He grew up in very privileged circumstances, originally in Castlemagaret in County Mayo, and then later in a wonderful location in Lugallow in County Wicklow. Like a lot of people with considerable wealth, he had a lot of time on his hands. He had lots of money, but he didn't know what he wanted to do. He ran away from 2 schools, and along the way, he became interested in Irish music and decided that he wanted to preserve and retain Irish spoken word and Irish music, which he felt was in the mid to late 50s in the rapid decline because of the emergence of pop music, Elvis Presley, the groups, the tide of music coming across the Atlantic and the tide of music coming across from the Irish Sea and the Beatles. And so he set up in 1959, when he was still 19 years of age, he set up an Irish record company and recorded artists over the next 10, 20 years.
It was a huge undertaking on his behalf. As you say, he was very well resourced, but it would also take a great deal of determination and the right people working on this, because it's such a huge undertaking and an important one too.
Yes, and one of the first individuals that he met was Ivor Brown, the well-known psychiatrist, no relation. And they were both pupils of a pipe maker and a piping teacher from Donnycarney in Dublin, who taught them how to play the pipes. And they fell in love with this. Now, Garrett wasn't as good a student as Ivor Brown. Garrett listened, but he didn't learn too much about the intricacies. And he and Ivor decided they should record Leo Rolson, who at that time was the only piper and the only maker of pipes. So he was very, very important. They recorded the first album with him, King of the Pipers. Also, Leo Rolson was the teacher who had 2 other very, very important pupils, much more successful than Garrett. One was Liam O'Flynn, and the other was Paddy Maloney of the Chieftains. That really spawned the beginning of Claddagh. And on from there, Garrett recorded both music and the spoken word. He recorded Patrick Kavanagh in the 1960s, Seamus Heaney later. He was responsible for the setting up of the Chieftains. Paddy Maloney worked with Claddagh Records as an office manager and was playing music at the same time. So it really became a melting pot for Irish musicians. And Garrett travelled all over the country, spent a lot of time in Donegal, Sligo, the Western Seaboard, meeting and recording artists. And it really was his life's work. He died in 2018, and when he died, there were 50 steel boxes in the vaults in the Bank of Ireland in College Green in Dublin, which had been left there for years, gathering dust, but in great condition. And I was asked, because I'd been working with Garrett for some time, would I get involved in the writing of a book, and would I assist in the revival of Claddagh Records? And that's why we are where we are today.
And I mean, obviously, we'll talk about the importance of what he's done. It's not just music and the spoken words, which are part of our culture, but, in terms of his impact in archiving our culture. But he was also a very interesting character, and you talked about the Elvis Presley and the other influences that were coming in here. He enjoyed spending time with them, the likes of Mick Jagger, Brendan Beaton, Sean Connery, Pierce Brosnan. Like, he did like to socialise and mix as well with his friends.
He did, and because Luggalaw is such a magical place, it was a wonderful place for parties, and quite a lot of the time, Garrett's mother, Lady Una Guinness, was a wonderful host. But sometimes a new party would start before the last one had finished, so you tended to have a lot of people from all walks of life. It would have been in Luggalaw that Paddy Maloney would have met a lot of the artists that the Chieftains recorded with. That was a huge door opener for the Chieftains. Garrett was quite eccentric in many ways. He wore tweed suits, bawnine pullovers. He had a pony and trap, which he rode into Dublin, and was known to park it outside the Shelburne Hotel, pay a tip to the doorman, who would feed the horse at regular intervals, and he would return in due course, having visited various hostelries. Now, he sometimes would return not necessarily on the same day that he left the horse there. So there could have been lengthy delays. He was a wonderful character. He was terribly gregarious. I spent a lot of time with him in his latter years working on this book, and it really was a journey of discovery and a wonderful, joyful journey for me, I have to say.
And you obviously have remarkable insights as a friend and someone who spent time with him working on this book, and then access to the items that you talked of. For those who may feel that they know Garrett Brown, they're probably in for an awakening with this book, because people will get a real detailed insight and understanding to the man's life and what he achieved.
I think so, and hopefully that was really the purpose of this, really to shine a light on somebody who has played a unique role, a really unique role in the preservation of Irish music. And, living in large houses and having access to lots of money doesn't always mean happiness. And Garrett had a terrible tragedy in his late teens, early 20s, when his brother Tara died in a car crash in London. He was socialising with Paul McCartney the night before, and I think Brian Jones from the Rolling Stones, and his car crashed on the King's Road. He was killed instantly, and that was the accident, the incident that triggered Lennon and McCartney to write I Heard the News Today, Oh Boy.
Wow.
Tara Brown went in one direction. He liked the whole 60s scene and London and the beat scene and all the pop groups. Garrett stayed with his Irish culture, and really it was a journey of discovery for him. He didn't grow up with Irish music in the house. He went off and he found it for himself.
So how difficult was it for you to sort of sign off on this project, to say, right, that's done? Because obviously you have the book, and then that's not just it. This comes as a package, right? So there's a lot in it. Was it difficult to say, right? Was it difficult to say, right, that's that done now?
You have clearly an insight into creating things, because the awful part is getting to that signing off. And you really have to, a day has to come when you say, that's it, that's done. I don't want to have anything more to do with this. I can't do any more. I've tried my best. I've worked at it for 6 years. It has occupied or maybe obsessed me for that period of time. And, you say, please, don't show me this again. I don't want to see it anymore. I don't want to read another draft. Take it away from me. But I was very lucky with the editors and with the designers, and I had a number of people who read drafts. But it's an interesting. Your question is very interesting. I find I don't want to see the book now. I live in fear and dread of because I will see something. I hope I don't, but I will see something that I'm not happy with or whatever. So I'd much prefer to move on to something else and just forget about this. This is gone. I'm finished with this.
Well, hopefully in time you'll be able to sit down and enjoy all your efforts. So the book, it's a 228-page book. It's accompanied by Masters of the Craft, the Claddagh Collection LP, again, which also had to be curated. And that presents 17 remastered tracks from Claddagh's immensely rich catalogue, and also a never-before-released poem from Pulitzer Prize for Poetry and T.S. Eliot Prize winner poet Paul Muldoon. So it's a significant piece of work and a considered purchase, I'd imagine, but something that that should hopefully be treasured in someone's possession. That's what you would hope for, I presume.
Well, thank you very much, Greg. I'm only the carrier. All the creativity is in the work of the people that I've written about. Their musical creativity, their artistic creativity, their literary creativity. I really am. I'm kind of taking it from A to B, and this is to showcase those artists. This book is to showcase the artists, as is the LP. I'm a forager, I suppose. I'm a social inquirer. I drill down, but I'm only maybe. There's the conductor of an orchestra. Mm-hmm. He doesn't play a musical instrument. That's all. So maybe I'm a quasi conductor of putting something together with a lot of very enthusiastic people.
And pardon my ignorance if this is off the mark, but to some extent, are you presenting your friend, maybe without the perception or without the misunderstanding, or perhaps with do you feel a responsibility in that it's maybe a job for you that people fully understand Garrett Brown, who he was, what motivated him? Because people have perceptions of others, don't they? Well, this is your opportunity to present the person as he actually was.
In essence, you're absolutely right. Garrett had a lonely latter period in his life. And that loneliness affected him greatly. This is to celebrate the life of a man who went out and who made it his life's work to gather, to collect, to compile, and to preserve a wonderful heritage that belongs to all of us, or most certainly that we are all part of. And that's what this is. This is that. And this is about Garrett Brown, and it's about all those artists. It's not about anybody else.
Yeah, and there's two ways of looking at this from where I'm sat, because you could look at his work and he's rightly referred to as the greatest archivist of Irish culture of all time. But then you wonder, where would you be at if he didn't undertake the work that he did? Where would we be at now? What would it be like now? What would we know? Where would the chieftains be? Sometimes more interested to take a moment and sort of reflect on what someone's achieved by wondering what it would be like if they hadn't undertaken what they had.
Well, I think you can bring that right to today in a sense, because Seamus Heaney only met Patrick Kavanagh once. It was in the Bailey pub in Dublin a few months before Kavanagh died. And these are all happenings or events that were never planned. Young poet meets the father figure of Irish poetry. I don't think we can analyse exactly what happened as a result or what would have happened if something else happened. The now is that we're talking about it, and the now is that perhaps there are some of your listeners who are young musicians who really want to do something, who are going out on a limb, or who have literary skills, literary talents, and would like to follow them, are unsure, insecure about it, but they really want to do it. And certainly, if there's one person out there who's motivated by, encouraged by something like this book, please go for it, I would say to any of them, because that's what we're all part of the continuity here, Greg. We're all part of this is a continuance.
Yeah, but you're in a fantastic position in that you straddle both. You straddle the past and all of the people that you're writing about and you're talking of, and you've your foot into the future to present it to hopefully a new audience and to infuse or encourage or inspire others. I just hope that this isn't a full stop and that we lose our, with the development of different technologies and all. I hope we don't lose our creativity, and this is not like a full stop on Irish culture in these areas. But I doubt it is.
I don't think it will. I don't think it will for two reasons. There's an enormous amount of talent out there. There are so many young, emerging Irish writers and musicians, and as somebody who grew up in the west of Ireland, local radio is very important. Local radio is very important in peeling back, in opening the book of life for people to see and to hear. And as I say, someone who might be listening, who says, I have this idea I'd like to pursue. And an idea doesn't always have to go to the very, 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 very end. The journey is the discovery. And that's why, finishing this book is a bit of a bore, to be honest with you. The journey was fantastic. The journey, I wish the journey was continuing, but then, and parts of me, I wish it was.
I was going to say, when you use the word finished, it lacks a bit of conviction. Well, it's off to the publishers now, so you're just going to have to wait. And we'll have to wait a little too, because it is not released until the hardbook and vinyl box set is due for release on the 29th of September via Claddagh Records. And you can go and check out the website there as well, which I think would be a useful resource even prior to that book being fully available, claddagh.records.com. It's been wonderful speaking to you, and thank you for giving us that personal insight into such a really important part of our history as well. James, it's been wonderful to speak to you.
Greg, thank you very, very much, and a privilege for me. Thank you.
Bye-bye, James. That is James Morrissey, author of Reel to Reel, Garrett Brown and Claddagh Records, and he a friend of Garrett's as well, and spent lots of time with him, particularly in the latter years of his life. And as I say, maybe it's not as apparent now, but in generations to come, his impact and influence and his achievement in what was archived and how it was done will be celebrated for generations and generations to come.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till Noon Show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
The new Corolla Hybrid Electric range is here, and the Corolla Cross SUV is the latest addition to the iconic family. Spacious and beautifully designed, it's perfect for growing families everywhere. And it's available to order now at Kelly's Toyota Letterkenny and Mount Charles. With exceptional electric drive time and no plugging in, the next generation is ready to take over. See the new Corolla Cross today at Kelly's Toyota Letterkenny and Mount Charles. Toyota, built for a better world. Terms and conditions apply.
It's the Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring 70% off sale. Get up to 70% off on all your purchases. Up to 70% off all tiles, all wood flooring, all bathware. Everything's reduced in-store. The 70% off sale at Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring. Stores nationwide. Sale now on.
In the next 15 seconds, you're going to find out where is the best place in the Northwest to buy a bed or mattress. It's Restex Beds and Furniture Mountaintop, Letterkenny, where comfort meets style.
It's the summer of savings at SuperValue. Enjoy great offers like SuperValue Fresh Irish Round Roast, better than half price. Selected Keeling, SuperValue and Signature Tastes, large pack berries, 3 for €10. Villa Maria Sauvignon Blanc, €10. And money off vouchers every week on the app. For a summer of savings, it's got to be SuperValue. Enjoy alcohol responsibly.
Now, you're very welcome back to the programme. So as we were reading about and listening about yesterday, driving testers who were nitpicking and another who reacted poorly to another driver forgetting they would park their car before the test were among complaints received by the Road Safety Authority in recent months. In one case, a person sitting their driving test later complained that the examiner had scolded them for whizzing past cars despite the fact that they were travelling at the speed limit. I'm going to have to stick to my guns because I did state yesterday, and I still think the case is that maybe people are a little bit sensitive, and maybe in some cases it was the individuals themselves that were nitpicking. But be that as it may, this information is released, and why not get a bit of mileage out of it? Shane O'Donoghue's head of media and content for the Irish School of Motoring. Good morning to you, Shane.
Hey, Greg.
We're becoming an incredibly sensitive nation, aren't we?
Yeah, that was my first reaction to it as well. I mean, I am sympathetic to people doing the test. They're balls of nerves. Of course they are. So I can't imagine parking the car and 5 minutes later forgetting where you put it.
I mean,
But I mean, that's nerves. That's fair enough. You can't say much about that. But I think one of the big questions, because I think we've seen a freedom of information request like this before, and the big question I had then was, well, do any of these complaints come from people that have passed the test? Or is it only people who have not passed the test and are disgruntled? And, I understand that. It's not great. They've put all the effort in and they failed the test for whatever reason. And it's natural to be annoyed about that. And I guess to try and take it out on the tester itself. But I definitely go along with you. I think we're becoming a bit sensitive, and we're only hearing one side of the story, aren't we?
Another complainant said they were told to put down the driver's side window during the test despite torrential rain outside. This caused my right side to get soaked and affected my vision due to the rain coming in on top of me. It doesn't go on to say, but thankfully I later went on to pass my test.
No, it doesn't say that, does it? No, I mean, that's an unusual one, and that doesn't sound very fair, I guess, but there must be some reason. Again, we only hear one side of the story. That's the big problem here.
Yeah, and then what happened was, Shane, when we mentioned yesterday, we were contacted by a lady who sat her test recently, and the test lasted 47 minutes, and over that 47 minutes, she eventually accumulated enough marks to fail, and subsequently resat the test. It lasted 27 minutes, and she passed with flying colours. I'd be more concerned about stuff like that that we'd need to make sure that kind of thing isn't happening, that everyone sits the test, that it's fair, it's reasonably the same in length of time. Do you know, I'd be more concerned with those types of stories rather than feeling that you were being scolded for whizzing past cars.
Yeah, I agree with you, actually. And the ISM's position on that is always that the test is perhaps too easy, which I know there's going to be people out there who are struggling to pass tests that would have an issue with that, but perhaps it doesn't go far enough. It doesn't test enough and make you ready for the road.
Of course it doesn't. It's crazy. You don't go on a dual carriageway. If you're in Donegal town, you don't see a traffic light. You don't drive in the dark. You don't drive in the frost. You don't drive in the snow. So it really... You just get your 25 minutes out of the way, get your licence, and off you go, free to do whatever you want, and to encounter the actual dangerous conditions that really you were never tested or taught about. Yeah,
that's right. There is zero training in terms of car control in an emergency or a skid or something like that. And I think that's severely lacking in our driver training in Ireland. And I think one point you picked up on there is the inconsistency. So somebody's doing a test in the middle of Dublin City with a very different set of conditions to put up with, as you said, in comparison to somebody who's doing it in Donegal town. And that inconsistency is perhaps unfair on learner drivers, but it's also not preparing everybody in the same manner or to the same level. I would definitely like to see a drastic reshuffle of the driving test and rethink of it. And one of the things we've talked about here before is driver education. More training, and not just to pass the test, actually. It'd be great perhaps to see it more of it later on throughout your career, you know.
Like, say, for instance, if you are caught for speeding or dangerous driving, in some courts, you are sent on certain courses to correct your driving behaviour. Do that in transition year.
That is not a bad idea at all. I think it'd be great to be getting younger people training in some way and getting used to the idea of road safety, not just how to get your test, but how to be a safe driver and a courteous driver.
Any update on what the story is with testers? Again, off the back of reading this article, and look, we do recognise it's silly season, so you send the Freedom of Information in on driving tests. I'm sure it's in the diary for 2024 already. But there is the serious issue then that came up after this of, one local person here. The test was supposed to be in June, then July, then August, now September. They're due to start college. The college is in Cavan, and there's no transport out of where they're living to get to Letterkenny or some other hub. Those are the real issues, I think. And it seems 4 months wait is pretty average now at this point around about these parts. In any case, Shane, any inroads in terms of recruiting more driving instructors so that these waiting times are more manageable, more realistic, I wonder?
Yeah, there has been improvements around some parts of the country, though. I don't believe most parts of the country you're waiting 3-4 months anymore. I think that has significantly improved. There was talk about longer hours, but as it is, I mean, the instructors are doing 10, 11 tests a day. You can't really expect instructors to do more than that. I think it is more a case of training up new driving instructors. And it is an ongoing issue, but I believe it is improving, perhaps not exactly where you are.
Shane, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Greg.
All right, take care of yourself. That is Shane O'Donoghue, Head of Media and Content at the Irish School of Motoring. 086 60 25,000. Have you a view? Give us a call on 07491 25,000. Why should our young people come back to teach here, says this caller, in this country? How many of our nurses who were called back and promised everything during COVID actually got work? Our government is a total disgrace, they believe, and an embarrassment to the intelligence of most people. That's coming in from Anne. Yes, do you remember Your Country Needs You, Come Home? We spoke to a couple of people who did, and that's, that's just a tiny sample. And there was nothing for them when they did arrive. Could you ask Greg to advise homeowners waiting for an email from the council on what stage they are at and what to do next to check their junk spam folders? Mine had gone in there for some reason. Thank you. Interesting. Thank you very much, Anne-Marie, for that. Good advice. We might do it if we're waiting on an email about a driving test, for an example. So certainly well worth checking your spam/junk folder, just in case you're affected by defective concrete blocks. You're waiting for an email back as it relates to that scheme from the council. This listener found their email in the junk folder. Great advice. Thank you very much. It is greatly appreciated. A caller says, I had the same problem in a long wait for a driving test. We went to Derry and had the lesson there, and there was little to no waiting time on a test. The test is done when the driving instructor thinks you're ready to do it. She too was waiting for a job and really needed her licence for her job. I wonder how many of you out there have crossed the border to get your driving test, or indeed vice versa. I wonder how many of you have straddled the border in either direction because it was more beneficial in terms of getting your driving licence. Okay, back with more shortly.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate holiday loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Are you suffering from dodgy internet connection? Symptoms include endless loading, embarrassing freeze face. Luckily, there's a cure. 3 Home Broadband in Ireland's fastest and most consistent 5G network. Get it free for the first 3 months and for only €39 per month after that. Plus, no setup costs. You don't want to miss this. Visit in-store or at 3.ie. 24-month minimum term. Subject to location and availability. Speeds may vary. Based on analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence data Q3 to Q4 2022.
New football boots just arrived at Brian McCormick Sports. Adidas X Crazy Fast in new white, green or classic black. Adidas Copa Pure in classic black. New Puma King range in soft ground or firm ground. Kids football boots for all sizes in many new colours. Match up your boots with an Adidas or O'Neill set of socks and shorts. Brian McCormick Sports, your football specialist. Click on bmcsports.ie or call in Main Street, Letterkenny.
It's the Kildare Fair this Wednesday to Sunday at McCarry's Bar, Dunfanaghy. There's Jiving with Aisling on Wednesday from 8 p.m. Enjoy Bingo Loco on Thursday, the Whistling Donkeys and One for the Road on Friday. Michael English followed by DJ Cooper on Saturday and Dan McCabe and the Danny Byrne Band on Sunday. The Kildare Fair this weekend. This ad is sponsored by Collision Assist, the Northwest's leading accident management and crash repair company.
All right, we are in the last quarter of the show, the last quarter hour. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Now, we're joined on the programme by Moira, who's had a horrible experience recently. Moira, how are you getting on? Good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you? Because, well, I'll tell you, we'll get to that. Talk to us what happened to you. Where were you and what happened to you? Right with your little dog anyway, I think.
Yes, I was up in the northwest in Maghorty, the beautiful beach there, and went down early in the morning on Sunday because I'm from Dublin and I had to get back to Dublin that day. So went down for a quick swim and a walk with my little dog Teddy, who's a little cavapoo, 3 years old. And while we were on the beach, this woman and her dog were walking towards us. A big dog, I think a German Shepherd or an Alsatian. Now she called out, "Don't worry about him. He's big, but he's friendly." So he came over to us, and as dogs do, they kind of said hello, a bit of sniffing and all of that. And next thing, they were fighting. And this huge dog grabbed my poor little Teddy and basically had his leg in his mouth and was kind of shaking him. And it was very frightening. It all happened very fast. And the owner was genuinely upset as well. And she managed to kind of get them apart, and Teddy was bleeding, and it was just horrible. It was just really, really upsetting. So she was very upset herself. She said that her dog was totally friendly and had never done anything like this at all, and that what could she do to help and all of this kind of stuff. I'll be honest with you, I just had my towel with me and my dogs because I had literally just gone down for a swim. So she was like, "I'll give you my number if there's any vet fees or whatever." So anyway, as it happened, I didn't get a number from her or her name or anything like that. But she seemed like she was very genuine in terms of wanting to help. We brought Teddy back to Dublin, and then later that evening I brought him to the vet because he was quite, lethargic and not well. So we went to the 24-hour vet hospital up in UCD, and he had to get antibiotics, and he had to get, anti-inflammatories and painkillers, and the poor little dote, like, he's not himself at all, So, listen, I contacted you because I really felt that this woman was genuine, and I just, she did offer to to help with the vet fees and stuff. So I just thought I'd call in and see if anybody knew this dog or this woman who were walking on Maghorty there on Sunday.
So the bill almost €200. You, as I say, she in earnest wanted to assist with any vet bills. Well, there it is. You didn't get the number on the day for obvious reasons. Nowhere to write it for starters, but also you didn't have anywhere to put a pen by the sounds of things.
Exactly.
But we have your number, and if that lady or if that lady wants to contact us, we can put you in contact. So, we Teddy still not right. I mean, I presume it's like no, like us as humans, if we go through something that's distressing, the wounds might heal a little bit quicker than the memory might.
Yeah, well, that's the worry, I suppose. He's a very friendly little dog, and he's not fazed by other dogs or anything. So I did ask the vet on Sunday, psychologically, could this affect him? And she said, actually, it really can affect them. It can affect their personalities. Like, yesterday morning now, he has one of those cones on as well to stop him licking the wounds, and he looks very forlorn altogether, but he sleeps in a crate at night. And when I opened the crate yesterday morning, usually he comes running out and he's really enthusiastic. He just lay there and looked at me with his little brown eyes. And
Mommy, why did you let that happen?
Exactly. Yeah. I know. It's awful. It's like having a child.
Sorry, I'm not trying to make you feel worse, Mara. I'm sorry. I was just putting myself in the mind of Teddy for a moment. Sorry, I'm not trying to compound your upset, by the way. That's not my intent.
No, but it is. When they look at you with those brown eyes, it is
that's how you might feel, exactly. But you did nothing wrong. And I think you do too. I mean, the lady, obviously, with the Alsatian German Shepherd, she got a bit of a gunk in this as well, because she's now reevaluating, I'd imagine, her relationship with her dog, because she seemed convinced it was not capable of what it did. So that's something for sort of her to process and contend with as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're big dogs. Everybody knows that. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, all dogs are animals and they're going to act on instinct. It was just very strange. It wasn't that there was food that they were both going for. I don't know what really triggered it, because, you know yourself when you're out walking dogs, they always just come to say hi and they have a little sniff and they do all that. So, yeah, she was very upset. Now, she wasn't from Maharorty. I think she was just visiting. So I don't know, but I just, like I say, if she happens to be listening, or if anybody knows a woman who's walking Maharorty as we speak with a German Shepherd, like I say, I really got the sense that she was genuine and she was a dog lover, and she was very upset by what had happened.
She doesn't want to see you out of pocket either.
Well, it was 200 on Sunday, and where that's because he had to get injections and various things, and it's an out-of-hours consultation, and then we do have to bring him back for review. So, you know, I mean, I wouldn't grudge him. I don't mind paying it for him to make it more comfortable, but given that she did make the offer, I just thought I'd put it out there and see what happens.
A Cavapoo is it's a beautiful dog. If I've got the right dog, it's a crossbreed. Is that how you describe it, or a mixed breed, or what's the terminology?
Yeah, it's a cross between a poodle and a King Charles Cavalier. So he's called Teddy because he just looks like a little teddy. He's about 8 kilograms and curly, kind of golden hair and big brown eyes. Like he really is like a little teddy bear come alive, you know. Okay. So he's a little sweetheart. So I'm just hoping that, you know, I was asking the vet on Sunday, and she said, look, the best thing is to try and keep him socialised and to check yourself. So if I'm walking along and a big dog is coming, that I don't get nervous, and that'll transfer to him to try and make sure that he doesn't lose his lovely little personality and become very, afraid of other dogs. It'll be interesting to see.
It'll be interesting to see when Teddy sees either a beach or another dog as well, too, of course.
Yes, yeah. Because sadly we had to leave Donegal on Sunday and come back to Dublin, so he won't be on certainly on one of those nice beaches for a while. But I just I just hope, because we often go down to our local park and there's often dogs having a run around or whatever. So I just hope that he doesn't become afraid of those.
Well, it's out there now, Moira. Hopefully the lady in question is listening and does want to come through on the commitment. Wish Teddy a full and speedy recovery. And as I say, for yourself as well. It's it's an image I'm sure that you would prefer not to have in your mind, and one which you wish to forget. Okay, thank you so much for your time. All right,
thanks,
Moira,
Greg.
take care.
No
we'll pass on any
Thanks
information we get. All right, it's our pleasure. Now, before I go, I just want to remind you that we have our Highland Radio Mega Summer Cash Draw. We've already given away €2,500, but we have so much more to give away. We've got 3 more €2,500. Isn't that correct? It is. Have I got the right readout? Yes, I'll read it actually, and then I won't misrepresent it. So we're inviting you to enter Highland Radio's Mega Summer Cash Draw. You buy a ticket today and you'll have 4 chances to win big. Every Friday from the 18th of August to the 1st of September, we'll be giving away €2,500. That's not all. So that is 3 prizes. On the final draw, that's the final Friday on this show, we will be drawing a ticket where one lucky person will win €10,000 in cash. So in effect, if you get your ticket now, you're in 4 draws, right? So you have 4 chances to win, 3 2.5s and 1 10. Not bad, is it? You can book your tickets or buy your tickets online by going to highlandradio.com. You click on the draw link. You can't miss it. You answer a simple question and purchase your tickets. Now, the most you'll pay for your ticket is £10. The more you buy, the cheaper they get. So if you want to buy them with other people or as gifts or whatever you might do. As I say, this is on a scale. It's not like some of those massive countrywide competitions where you sometimes enter in a field, you've got no chance. There are more chances to win here. We've got 3 2,500s, 1 10,000. Of course, buy your tickets if you can afford them, and you can do so for having a bit of a punt, a bit of crack like you might the lotto or something like that. Okay, so go on to our website, highlandradio.com. Now, I do understand that not everyone wants to buy tickets online. It's perfectly safe and it couldn't be safer. But for those of you who prefer to speak to a person, the closest we could find today is Katie. So Katie will take your call on 07491 25,000. She'll go through that whole process for you and secure your tickets and give you the numbers. I'm sitting here looking right at the Trombola, Fanula's Trombola. And your number and your ticket could be in there. I listened back to a guy winning it on Friday. He seemed over the moon. I think he was just back off a holiday himself. So that money's going to come in handy, isn't it? I think we all come back a bit short after a holiday, don't we? But anyway, you can have numerous holidays. 3 by 2,500 to give away, 1 by 10,000, which is 17,500 in total. To be in with a chance, get in touch by going onto the website, highlandradio.com. Click the link, answer a question, buy your tickets. Give us a call on 07491 25,000. And if you don't want to do it online, and if you don't have a credit card, but you say, well, hold on a second, don't leave me out here. I prefer cash. Well, we've got you. Okay, we can sort you out there as well, because you can also call into us here, Mountaintop Letterkenny, and we'll process your tickets for you. By calling into us during office hours. Right, okay. Is this Instagram competition still going, Caroline? Am I supposed to give this Instagram competition a mention? Is it? I'm not quite sure. Is it? We don't know. It is? It is, okay, great. Because it is competition time again with us here at Highland Radio over on our social media. This time we've teamed up with Foy & Company in Letterkenny and Ballabufey. They're giving one lucky winner the chance to win a fabulous luxury twilight rug worth €189. If you would like to win this rug, simply head over to our Facebook or Instagram at Highland Radio Donegal and check out the pinned post and follow the instruction there. The winner will be announced this Friday, the 18th of August, on our socials. So you don't really have to do much. You just enter the competition on our social media. Why wouldn't you? So get over to our Instagram or Facebook at Highland Radio Donegal. You could be the lucky winner of a Foy & Company rug. It's a luxury twilight rug worth €189. Now, there's one thing I want to mention. We announced the winners of our Facebook and Instagram competitions on our own pages, okay? And we announced them on the pages. We will not message anyone. So, unfortunately, the world we live in now, you will see Facebook pages, Instagram pages pop up purporting to be from companies such as Highland Radio that will private message you saying, well done, you've won something. Please disregard, report and block those pages. We will announce the winner on our official pages on Friday. So it won't be done by way of direct message. It will be posted on the page itself. So we don't want you to get caught out. Okay, listen. Thank you so much for listening to the show today. It's been lovely having you all on board. And we're going to do it all again for Wednesday tomorrow morning from 9. For me, Greg Hughes, and Caroline Orr, who researched and produced the show. And Niamh also working flat out as well. Have a wonderful Tuesday. Stay tuned. It is Kevin Fury around the Northwest after the news with Michaela.
The 9 till